C111 Lemon Tree. Year 140. My news about the heroes came mostly through eavesdropping on Stella. After the death of 3 heroes, they called her frequently, they hoped to rely on her for mental support. Which was strange, because I could see Stella struggling, and she turned to alcohols and herbal remedies to cope. Was I supporting a junkie? Am I enabling her behavior by giving her things? Look, Astia. I used her name. I didn't want her to know I was eavesdropping or reading her mind. I'll need you to earn some money. I can't keep supporting you like this, especially if you're not doing much other than mope around all day. I felt like a dad giving a talk. She nodded. All right. What can I do? I can teach, I suppose. Will that work? No. Did you do any work in your past life? I had to pretend I had no idea what's her background was. I was an admin assistant. All right. Then you can do paperwork. The Freshlands Treaty College needs someone to tabulate results, handle time schedules and manage logistics. I'll have you work on that. Then my bodyguard. Good point. What sort of paperwork can be done by someone, where they didn't need to interact with others? Research. Trevor suggested. She may assist with documentation of research results. I proposed this to Astia and she made a trip to one of the biolabs. She quickly noped out of there. I am not doing this job. That lab is way too scary. What's with all the beetle limbs floating around in various green vats? Even if I am not afraid, I'll be too nervous to even work. I mentally sighed. How's your maths? Average. What are you good at? Computers. They don't exist in this world, do they? Can you do art? She paused. I could. Then you will do paintings and design. The Valthorns will pass you the materials and requirements, and you can do posters and picture design. Oh, okay. Finally. She was average at the whole painting thing, but it was good enough for the Valthorns posters. She made a "We Want You" poster as part of the regular Valthorn recruitment flyers. At the very least, she would be paid. Miss Stella. Tom was on the magical call again. Oh hi. Stella was working in a painting studio, working on the next recruitment poster. She quickly put on a smile, instead of her usual resting bitch face. This Demon King thing, it's really hard. Tom sounded really depressed and sad. But I keep hearing these voices to tell me to go on. I feel like my body's not listening to my mind. Oh dear, that sounds really bad. If that was her attempt at empathy, I think a certain car show host could do better. I sometimes keep thinking of them, but somehow, I couldn't remember. It's so weird. Tom cried and wept. Then he looked like he had one of those mind attacks again. Stella didn't know how to react. She wasn't good at this kind of thing. So she said nothing. Tom suddenly woke up as if it never happened, and the conversation went elsewhere. We're all about level 70 to 80 now, but we're still not good enough for the Demon King. We kept fighting its larger demonic dragons, but so many people are dying. Stella was silent, almost like a statue. We're going to try, though. So many people depend on us to slay the Demon King. That sounded so familiar. At some point, all these heroes really sound the same. I wonder whether I'll ever meet a hero that could resist the influence of the gods. That would be something, I think. The powers of a hero, yet without their influence. Good luck. Stella forced it out of her mouth. Somehow she managed to smile. Thanks, Miss Stella. Hang in there already. We'll come and get you once we slay the Demon King. They somehow turned positive again, as if they were entirely different persons. Stella noticed it, of course, but she didn't say a word. In her mind, the first thing wasn't God's influence, but instead, did Tom have bipolar disorder? There were about 10 seagoing kingdoms building new warships, ships that we hope to use someday, to break the blockade. The Valthorn's Naval Academy was new, and though I had the ability to bestow Captain, Admiral, or Pirate, or Privateer classes, there's a huge body of knowledge, about navigation, about logistics of a navy, which we took and adapted from the existing maritime kingdoms. With intercontinental trade absolutely dried up, some of the merchants have turned to piracy. This was especially true in the nations further away, where my eyes are limited. This created a negative feedback loop, since piracy increased the cost of business, and made the business of merchants even more unviable, which drove even more sailors and captains into piracy. I met many pirates. More like, I've spied on many pirates, many of them are just plain criminals. They want money. Some are driven down a path of desperation and couldn't get out of piracy. The Valthorns were stretched thin, especially the upgraded classers. I had about 100 upgraded classers, but the central continent has many more kingdoms. So the Valthorns had to travel from place to place, and I could not focus all of my classers to take out the pirates. It also didn't help that some of the pirates were quite high level, in their level 50s, so they could easily be a match for the younger upgraded classers who got their classes not so long ago. I needed to strengthen the elite much more. Still, I've reclaimed close to 40% of the Rotted Lands, except for that magically combustive space where the last Demon King perished. The swirling vortex was difficult to tame, and it kept destroying all the trees that I placed. The magical energies were something else. I thought my forest rod could be useful, but it has a small area of effect, so it must be placed in the heart of the vortex to work. So, over the past few years I made small steps towards the core. I tried to tunnel beneath the ground, and discovered that the magical vortex extended even underground. In short, whatever that's left in the middle, created a spherical spinning vortex. That didn't stop me. Spinning vortexes, that's just like my soul forge. Not exactly a stranger. So I set up multiple giant attendant trees around it, and gradually drain out the mana from the vortex, and at the same time, inject my own mana into the spinning vortex to neutralize the spin. It's a slow process, since I can't slow it down immediately, that tended to cause a whiplash and a really strong mana explosion that generally destroyed even my giant attendant trees. Still, this was a process that just took time. Eventually, I managed to diffuse and pacify the vortex. It just took a lot of mana. Then, we discovered the vortex has spawned a massive demon hybrid, from all the concentrated demonic and magical energy. It's not a pure demon, as it seemed like a Frankenstein-ish creature with limbs made from a hodgepodge of animals, and seemed only lightly affected by my resistances. It was asleep, or at least, inactive, up until the vortex was broken. It woke up. It was more powerful than a walker, but less than a demon king. It had demolite crystals all over its body, and living flesh in other parts. It roared with its worm-like head, with a mix of organic teeth and demolite. If the gods that spawned monsters were experimenting, this seemed like it. I immediately called on my Valthorns and my elites to intercept, while I used my abilities to slow it down. I could tell it was working, a bit. It wasn't a pure demon, so it suffered less from my extensive anti-demon perks. Eon didn't say there was a monster inside. There were already a small crew of Valthorn elites when we cleared the vortex. But they were insufficient. It had 3 long tails made of a mix of tree roots and demonic spikes, each capable of independently attacking any nearby enemies. I unleashed my root strikes, and it weakened it slightly. Then I used Constrict. Constrict worked a lot better, since it had various mana-draining qualities. Still, it struggled, and struggled. It broke free once. Then I had to use my abilities again to bring it down. It struggled. It fought. I added more giant trees to the area, to strengthen my abilities. It weakened. Then it pulsed. It felt nostalgic. It was going to explode. I used more Constrict and more steelwood barriers. I needed to drain away the core from exploding. My vines and roots pierced its body, like tentacles attempting to reach a reactor core that's about to go off. I drained it of its mana, as much as I could take, and vented it out in the surroundings. Patrick and the artificial mines helped. More vines covered the body of the hybrid demon. It was still going to blow. I quickly told the Valthorns to retreat. It blew up, but only a small explosion. The power behind the explosion mostly drained away by my vines. The explosion didn't destroy everything. What's left was a massive reddish crystal mixed with streaks of other colors. Tainted demon crystal core, a curious mix of demonic and native energies. The center of where the demon king fell reclaimed, there was demolite in smaller quantities. Thankfully it didn't all ignite in a chain reaction when it blew up. The crystal sat unused in my materials lab and magic. I had to run more experiments on it. It was an unstable magic core. It had a lot of potential, though. I just needed to figure out a way to use both of its energies simultaneously, since the crystal only released the blended version. Could it be a color for my soulforge once I've managed to control it? I placed it deep within my labs in the Valley of the Unrodden, for further experiments. The heroes fought the demons many times, and they are gaining levels. But it seemed that the Demon King was still too strong for them. Naveen Frog has died. You received a fragment. Ellen Askas has died. You received a fragment. Another 2 more died in the fight against the Demon King. That was our 5th encounter with the Demon King. Naveen and Ellen stayed back to delay the Demon King, so we could escape. Tom said to Stella, "We won't let their sacrifice be in vain. It must be hard losing your friend." Stella nodded. Yes. But we've come this far. We're almost level 100 now. I can feel that our victory is not far away. Some of us have unlocked our full star mana powers. Once all of us do, we'll take the fight back to the Demon King. I see. Then we'll come and find you, and free you. That won't be necessary, Tom. Stella said. Enjoy yourself after the fight. I mean it. Stella didn't want to deal with them at all. I've begun to see some slight benefits to the various schools, as I noticed some kingdoms setting up mini academies to train their noble children, a prep school before they were sent over to the FTC. The commoner students also had some improvement, as I started to give them classes more liberally. Merchant, knight, or administrator, basic classes, I gave them out to any commoner who wanted them, since these were common classes anyway. These generic classes helped them to cope with the various topics of administration, trade and warfare. Also, among the first generation of graduates, they created new trade routes and formed cooperation agreements, spearheaded by the Dwarven trade lord. It was, in many ways, what I wanted to see. An FTC alumni created a network that would only grow with time. This was a necessary step to bypass the old ways of networking and introduction, that relied on royal events, and also religious gatherings. Most graduates left the college with a favorable view of the Freshlands, and me. That was important, because the initial goal was to strengthen the culture of the Freshlands. I needed the nobles to act as advocates of the Freshlands culture, and I believe they would come into conflict with the incumbent culture of the nobles, carried forward from the days when the temples ruled. Still, this is the new wave, and the many of the savvy nobles are quick to get on my side. Really, culture is this strange thing. Sometimes it can change quickly, sometimes, really slowly. I wanted a cultural change that would stick in the continent as a whole. The ones who feel the cultural change the most are the priests and the Valthorns. They venture everywhere in the central continent to spread my cause, to carry out social work, to provide protection for soldiers and traders. They were unknown, then they were scorned, and now they get treated with respect. As a whole, though, the central continent still had their conflicts. In a way, the Freshlands have become the Vatican, and I am both the Pope and the God. The countries fought wars with each other, and I've ignored them, so long they continue to profess loyalty and faith to the Freshlands. Of course, the Valthorns and our assets are pulled out from the participating countries. There was no point getting caught in stupid friendly fire. Countries will have disagreements, and after some discussion with my artificial minds, it's fine to let them fight each other, as long as the source of their unhappiness was not me. In fact, it was also the opportunity for the priests to strengthen their cultural hold, as they stepped in to provide relief to those affected by wars and battles. If anything, these wars only weaken themselves, and strengthen the Freshlands. Cultural victory, in my opinion, involved watching others make mistakes and then resist the urge to interrupt them. We've fought the Demon King 8 times now. Tom said in a call with Stella. I honestly don't know what we're doing wrong. We're using our star mana powers, we are all level 100 plus, all 5 of us. We attacked the Demon King, and somehow it managed to either run away, or find a way to hurt us so bad that we retreated. Keep trying, you'll get there. The people of the eastern continent are starting to complain and grumble. Tom said. They didn't say it in our faces directly, but many cities don't even want to host us. Often, they would send us a messenger with whatever supplies we needed, and told us to camp outdoors, preferably far away from town. They said it's for the safety of the cities. It's not our fault that the Demon King attacked us when we are in the cities. That's tough. Any ideas how we should fight it? Sometimes it refused to even attack us, instead fleeing. I totally don't understand this Demon King. The gods told us the Demon Kings are simple-minded creatures. Tom sighed, and at the same time, I felt bad. They were clearly being lied to. The Demon Kings so far have displayed some intelligence, especially in battlefield intelligence and strategy. It wouldn't be a surprise if they actually are sentient, if they are a step above the demons I've met. Stella shrugged. I am not one for violence. Maybe we should lure it. We need something. Wave a big stick at it and say come here. Yeah, maybe we need a way to lure it. Tom answered his own question. Maybe with a lot of star mana. Another hero jumped in. How do we do that? Make a big beacon in the sky to tell the Demon King we're here. I thought it could already see us, why would it even respond to our lure? Stella just sat there and waited. The remaining heroes started to talk among themselves. The surviving 5 were Tom, Jason, Ryder, Adam and Rick. Strangely common names, compared to those that died, but I wasn't going to challenge it. Maybe they used a nickname, instead of their real names. They talked about various strategies, with Stella sitting there. They clearly have a poor sense of information security risk. Stella got bored at one point, so she intervened. Guys, I've got something to do, can you kick me out of this conversation? She didn't. She just wanted to have a nap. Aw, sorry, Miss Stella. We got carried away in our anti-demon king plan. Dash. The year was coming to an end. Did it normally take so long for the heroes to kill the demon king? Didn't they take a year or two? Then, Thomas Ragish died. Jason Statekas died. Ryder Flinish died. Adam East-West died. Ricky Roller died. You received 5 fragments. Wait. Did the demon king die? I waited for 2 days. Nothing. But, that's a total of 10 heroes died. The demon king lived even though the heroes died. And this is a new batch of heroes. Does this mean the gods will summon a new set? What will happen now? The demon king no longer has any heroes to fear. C112 Contingencies. Year 141. It was classified information. Clearly no one knew it, but I did. I first informed the Valthorns, the Valtrian Order, my patriarchs and matriarchs. It was met with a resounding silence. Patrick told me they were making plans. What did this mean? Have the demons won? I wouldn't be able to get anything from the regular people. At least, I didn't think I would. The only person who I thought could even attempt to answer what next, was Lily's. Greater than Lily's. The heroes died. Less than. Greater than so what now? Less than. That sounded awfully ominous. Greater than Tips. Less than. If we're doomed, isn't it? But I don't believe so. Since, well, I just don't believe it. I refuse to believe it. Then, I announced it to the representatives of the various cities, and the nobles of many kingdoms. The heroes have died, all 10 of them have fallen in battle. The entire hall was in uproar. It was a panic I've never seen the nobles exhibit. One of the noble lords went a little nuts and shouted, "We're doomed." Some said rather strange things. Why is this happening? It's the first time in documented history. Is it? Some nobles challenged, clearly trying to be the level-headed one. Our historical records only go back so far. What if this wasn't the first time? I recall when I first arrived, the gods always summoned heroes if the previous generation died to the new demon king. But would the gods summon heroes again, if the new batch of heroes died? If it isn't, then we have chosen correctly to break away from the 4 temples. They've lied to us all this time. But why? Why are the gods restricted from summoning newer heroes, if the new heroes died? Certainly they can try again, right? Is that something worth arguing over at this time? We need to deal with the reality before us, that the heroes have all fallen, and yet the demon king still lived. We must focus our efforts on surviving this. Survive. How? I for one am going to be rushing out there and spend all my money and live a life. Patrick's ability told me all of them are seeing their lives flash before their eyes. This was one of those, if you died tomorrow, what would you do? Moments. A noble said, we must try something. If we must call on the blood mages to perform a ritual of massive proportions, then we must. It is either they die, or everyone dies. I am certain some of the kings and the temples out there would be considering this option right now. But based on Patrick's calculation and my own historical data, it wouldn't be enough. From my observations of the hex to date, and my experiments, the existing hex bomb would not have enough power to destroy a demon king. Unless I sacrificed close to 20 million people, maybe more. I recall sensing the huge surge in magical energies when that hex-like thing, and now that I've got access to the hex on my own, I am able to put the 2 data points together to calculate the energy needed to replicate a similar power level. 20 million. Did he sacrifice so many? I don't think so. Yet, how did Astra do it? Is it because of the amplification power of star mana? Could star mana and hex fuse together, or does the star mana apply its anti-demon king qualities to the entire hex bomb? What are our options? I asked the artificial minds. The hex bomb is a good direction, Master. We should focus on amplifying the power of the soul, in order to create a superbomb. To borrow your memories, Master, the hex bomb is essentially a massive bundle of 10 million TNTs. If we could use the soul fragments in a significantly more efficient way, it may be possible to achieve the same effect with far lower sacrifice. It still required sacrifice. Just less. What level of efficiency can we achieve at the moment? The artificial minds paused and started calculating. It took them 2 days. Based on our current know-how and converting the entire valley of the Unrodden, we can amplify the hex bomb's efficiency and power by 4 times. Trevor said. Still, That meant at least 5 million sacrifices. Was I willing to do this to get just a single shot at the Demon King with the hex bomb? It bothered me. I didn't think it was the right thing to do at all. It felt like I am cutting off my limbs just to live another day. From a utilitarian point of view, Master, sacrifices are necessary. 5 million is a number the Freshlands can afford. It took a few days, but I then decided. It must be a last resort. But we must make preparations. The preparations required were massive. Firstly, we needed to make sure that there were at least 5 to 10 million people within a 5-day walk of Freshka. Next, was preparing the structures, formations and runes needed to properly concentrate the energies released from 5 to 10 million souls. We didn't know how much time we had, but preparing the formations and runes needed to perform a blood ritual of this size was going to take years. In a way, this option was dead from the start. There's no way we could have done the preparations needed in time. If the Demon King attacked this year, we would have failed. Even sacrificing 20 million people isn't so simple, since the souls of all 20 million need to be stitched together into a single shot. This endeavor alone required the construction of a massive containment array to control the energies. How did Astra do it? Was my magical measurement and sensors so far off? There must be some star mana or hero level shenanigans at work. The heroes died. The Valthorn's upgraded classers spoke among themselves. This meant the Demon King may very well be on the way to kill the rest of us. Does Eon have a plan? I say we hide. Construct massive installations deep within mountains and wait it out. The Demon King may rule the world outside, but with our skills, wed live. Ferris and the Druids, the mages together could generate all the things we needed to live. Eon's underground bunkers taken to the extreme, huh? Well, yes. But we're talking extremely deep. Far deeper than before. It's a good possibility. Some of the Valthorns considered the idea. It had a good merit. The demons certainly can't sense us if we hide that deep. Then let's do it. We can expand it if we can create enough space. We better not tell the nobles. They'll demand we protect them if they know. All the Valthorns nodded. The Valthorns started what they called the Trench Hideout Project. They, using their powers together, started to dig really deep underground. Their project would take a few months, but if they do it right, they'd probably survive. At the same time, Lausanne's still alive. That was a good sign, in the sense that the entire eastern continent has not fallen under the demons. There must be pockets or nations that survived. As the year went by, captains and sailors began noticing that the temple's blockade now had holes. Some navies still maintained the blockade, but there were pockets where the ships left. The temples, after all, are a hodgepodge of contributed forces, so some of the kingdoms may have given up. Then, we began capturing some ships that strangely sailed into the harbors of our allied kingdoms. What's happening out there? We interrogated the crew. We don't know, but our supply ships stopped coming and we were starving. So all of us had to come here. We either starve, or sail to the nearest harbor. They didn't know much. Even the captains were not very well informed of what was happening back in their home country. Jura sat and asked me one day, TreeTree, remember that time when you unlocked my limit? Yes. How far can you go with it? I didn't get his point. Was there multiple roadblocks on their levels that I have to keep unlocking? Do the native souls have a gacha style level cap where they need multiple upgrades before they achieve max capacity? How high can you push it? I don't know, really. Jura paused. Actually, maybe I should cut to the point. TreeTree, are you able to make something like a hero? I know you tried with Lausanne, and it didn't go far, but that was then, before all of the rotted lands. We all know you've gained strength as the forests and the lands expanded. Now, would you be able to do it? I probably cannot create the hero class. There's something divine about it, or at least, the god's version certainly is divine. But is the hero class truly the pinnacle class out there, or it's essentially possible for any class to achieve a similar power, even if they need to be a far higher level? It is worth trying. Astia, did you get fragments? She did. She paused, her mind raced. Sorry, she wondered how I knew. Fragments of heroes. It's a thing that reincarnation of other worlds receive. I wonder if you received it. Yes, she decided to be honest. They are dead, aren't they? How did you know, Eon? I lied. As a being that's close to the divine, we can sense it. Their fading presence in the fabric of the world. Close to the divine, she repeated. She's been gaining levels in scribe and artist, aided by the boost provided by the fragments. Her work was a lot of painting and paperwork, after all. I wondered whether she had the potential to achieve what I did, maybe she could even do more. But that's not enough to take on the Demon King. Heroes are specialist Demon King exterminators. We are not. It was a statement of fact, as far as I am concerned. I wondered what the Demon King would do, or what the gods would do. I got my answer as the year almost approached its end. The gods have summoned 3 new heroes. It's almost as if the gods themselves panicked. Why did they do this? Year 142. So, new heroes. The nobles and the Valthorns all relaxed considerably once I told them of the new heroes. I wonder where they will appear. Greater than has this happened before. Less than. Lilies responded a day later. I wonder how long lilies must have lived. But then, most of the time, they don't. Again, not exactly new under the sun, is it? Life goes on. We'll deal with the demons when they arrive on our shores. In the meantime, we continued our preparations. The school was doing well. And this year, I had a few exceptional students from both the Valtrian Order Academy, and also the Freshlands Treaty College. Talent was a strange thing. It almost seemed like they came in waves, with some years just having a lot more good people than others. The college had one exceptional centaur, Chiefling, and over the period of the 4 to 5 year course, transformed into Warlord at just level 25. Right next to him was a Master, Ranger Lord, again. He started just as a noble, and as the course developed his administrative and archery skills, it fused together at level 30. On the Valtrian side, a young archer hit level 43 at 16 years old, mostly from hunting hybrids and participating in all sorts of archery competitions. There was also a knight who managed to hit level 35 as they graduated from the academy, and his class evolved into Guardian Knight without needing any prompt or special class seed from me. It made me wonder what's really the evolution threshold of classes. Juris Warlord class happened very late, when he was almost level 60 plus in his warrior type classes. The nature of class is a perplexing thing, almost as if the rules don't apply uniformly. Everyone's class system had different thresholds and triggers. On the blood magic front, we continued to make preparations for the grand ritual, should we ever need one. Again, a last resort, and I wondered whether I should shelve the project since the heroes arrived. We should prepare the formations regardless. It can be repurposed for other uses. My artificial mind suggested, and so I agreed with it. Indeed, a massive formation used for containing souls seemed useful, even if just for my soul forge. The other preparation was partly Juris' idea, to create a mini-hero by fusing classes together. This was also where I spent quite a bit of time. It's a process of knocking class seeds together to see what worked, and what didn't. It's a lot of tracking and math, so I created an artificial mind to help keep track of all the ratios and numbers. There were some successes. I could not upgrade, or maybe, I have not found the way to upgrade some classes, but in the process of tweaking the Knight Druid, Spearman, and Soldier classes, I've somehow merged them with my own essence, and created the Tree Knight class, and I could then further upgrade it to Knight of the Woods, and even further to Knightmaster of the Woods. There were some classes that I thought could be further evolved, like Sharpshooter, or Grand Knight, or Weapon Master, but so far, I didn't make much progress on those. If there were a class that made life difficult for me, it would be the Mage classes. It was easy enough to fuse Mage with Druid, or Mage with Knight. Mage classes also could be fused together at the first layer, into Great Mage. But things got wacky from there. The higher Mage classes repelled each other when I attempted to create Archmages, or Wizards. It's not as if these classes were rare. I have Archmage classes, collected from dead Archmages. I even have existing Valthorn mages who managed to evolve their Mage classes into Archmages. Yet the class fusion resisted my attempts to create Archmages out of Mages, or Great Mages. I wonder whether this was a deliberate system restriction for high-tier magic, or there's some quirk to it that I didn't know. I needed time, and I was partly throttled by the number of class seeds. Experimenting with class seeds required and consumed huge amounts of class seeds. Even if it takes just 10 seeds of the same type to fuse it to the next level, by the third level it needed 1,000 seeds. It was just lucky that I had trees that could grow the normal class seeds by the bucketload, so I could do so. I could also create a tree that grows the upgraded class seeds, but then theft remains a huge concern. As my reach extends throughout the continent, all my trees aid me in the process of collecting more class seeds, via various death rituals, via my soul harvesters. All in, the entire continent, now under my direct or indirect control, produced between 5,000 to 50,000 class seeds per year. A rise in the class seeds usually arose from a massive war or battle where many died. Or a slaughter or something. Per the statistics provided by my artificial minds, it's roughly 1 in every 50 deaths would result in a class seed. That ratio is about 1 in 10 if the dead were buried via the Aeonic burial ceremonies. The ratio's better if the ceremony was performed in Freshka, where almost 1 in 2 burials result in some kind of class seed or skill seed. There's clearly a problem of proximity. I can't be everywhere at once, not all full strength. As it is, many abilities are just better when they are done near to me. I suppose if I could split a tree into multiple copies of myself, such that I could be 100% there, everywhere. As it is, the giant attendant trees can only push up to 50%. Decent, but not great, and that ratio's wonky for certain kinds of abilities. As the year went on, we didn't see demons crossing the oceans. Maybe they went to the northern isles or the southern continent, instead of directly west to the central continent. Why? If the demons have a head start, they should push hard and expand. After all, if the demons can fly, what's stopping them? Also, none of the heroes were on my continent. I tried looking for them, but nothing. No stragglers either, unless they died. Or took a form different from the normal humans. I wonder whether there are others like me out there, taking their time to hide away. Or have they all died? Side story. Lausanne's return to the central continent. Around year 141 to 142. Lausanne paused as she cradled the young toddler girl in her arms. It was a strange time to have a child, but strangely, it is not uncommon. The people she's met, many others have made babies when a war came. It's almost as if war and crisis triggered the reproductive desires in the living. She really looks like you. Artie smiled, and somehow Lausanne felt and remembered her mother's words. Artie had aged. They've been married for 23 years, and though Lausanne wasn't rushing things, her husband's hair had whitened, and 2 years ago, Artie proposed to have a child. The chaos and mess got to him, and to some extent, being human, even if he aged slower than a regular human. Or maybe it's the whole confined inside a city while demons roamed outside. What else was there to do, but to copulate? She agreed. 20 years without a child was quite far away from the human norms, and so Arlissa came into the world slightly over a year ago. At times, she wondered whether this was a mistake. The Eastern continent, for the lack of a better word, not the best place to raise a young baby girl. Not at all, even if the city she lived in was doing well. She had hoped things would improve when the heroes supposedly arrived, and that she, and her new baby, Arlissa, and Artie, would be able to leave the Eastern continent, and head back to the Central continent. It didn't. The flying drakes continued to destroy huge amounts of land, and Lausanne's survival depended mostly on underground hideouts and cities. The dwarves, in particular, adapted well to this demon king. Their cities often extended into the mountains, and they had ways to prepare their fortified cities for a long siege without exposure to the outside world. Honestly, it felt very much like being trapped in the valley again. Except the city was far larger, and all they had to deal with was flying drakes that roamed outside. Lausanne, the Lord summoned you. A messenger came over. She shrugged, and calmed Arlissa down. Let him know he'll be there soon. Lausanne passed the baby to her. Lausanne changed into her combat attire and walked to the Lord's subterranean chambers. There was an Ava priest there and a Hawa priest, and also a group of other warriors. Lausanne met them before. They were part of the defense force. Grandmaster Enka once said you were the temple's secret weapon. Lausanne wanted to roll her eyes, but she resisted. She internally regretted taking Enka's bargain. It's been a decade, and the temple still made requests for her. She wondered whether she should just say no, now that she had a child of her own. I am afraid I am no such thing. Lausanne bowed. I happen to just carry out too many Ivan Triumvir's requests. The Lord smirked. No matter. You will need to do a task for us. I received a divine quest from both Hawa and Ava, to rescue the new heroes. New heroes. Lausanne paused. What the hell? Why did the gods summon new heroes? Did something happen to the 10 heroes? In the Eastern continent, news was rare. Communication channels were few, and information like the death of the 10 heroes were a massive secret known only to the upper echelons of the priesthood and the kings. Rumors spread, but with every travel in the Eastern continent extremely difficult, it was an extremely slow move. Locals all wondered what took the heroes so long to slay the Demon King, and for Lausanne, it suddenly made sense. Lausanne agreed. Even if the task was difficult, heroes meant a solution to the Demon King problem, and a path for her new family. The alternative was a perpetual quarantine in this city that offered nothing much. They found the heroes hiding in a small cave, with a special compass from the priest of Hawa. 3 young heroes, hungry, dirty, and weak, hiding in a cave. There were demon drakes that flew overhead. Come with us. The young heroes didn't have much of a choice. It was starve, or take the only opportunity they had. They had to fight a few demon drakes on the way back, but ultimately, they didn't encounter any exceptional number of demons, or the more powerful demon drake champions. Dash. Tough day. Artie asked as Lausanne walked back to their home for the past 3 years. They didn't have much food. Yeah, Lausanne sat. Lexi played with Arlissa in the small room they had. The Playing Swords disbanded 2 years ago when most of the team died during a massive demon drake attack. Artie, Lexi, and one other swordsman were all that's left. Artie, Lexi both decided to call it a day. They were both not young anymore. The years displayed itself on their hair, their skin. Even if Lexi still looked good as her holy powers granted her a slower rate of aging, she too had grown weary from the fighting and traveling, and wanted a break. Space was surprisingly abundant. Many of the city's denizens died when the demon drakes attacked, so there were plenty of uninhabited accommodations. I met heroes today. 3 young ones. What happened to the previous 10? I don't know. But if there are 3 new young ones, that can't be a good sign. Lexi paused and nodded. She was a priestess too, and she knew the rules about heroes. The gods only summoned new heroes if the previous generation all died. If there were 3 new ones, it only meant the previous 10 all died. It's probably something you should keep to yourself, Lausanne. Lausanne paused, and she too realized the implication. Thanks for the reminder, Lexi. Artie nodded. The demon drakes raided every city on the continent. The cities that survived all relied on their heroic artifacts, but even then, those only granted a short period of protection. Lexi, what does the Demon King do after it wins? I don't know. The scriptures all didn't speak of such an event. Dash. The dwarven city in the mountain, Gerdarum, one of the 5 mining cities on the eastern continent, and part of the Dwarven Miner Federation. Each city was ruled by a lord, but the lord may as well be the king of each of their own cities. There was a massive chamber in the middle of the mountain, the rocky ceilings reinforced with magically enhanced pillars and plates. Home to almost 100,000 at its peak, now it was home to a third of that. Only 30,000. They purchased one of the abandoned units from the city hall a few years ago, and it had a small garden. There was no sunlight, but magical stones acted as artificial lights. Do you think we'll be trapped here forever? Artie asked Lausanne that night. They sat in the garden, they both had a cup of tea. Lexi and Arlissa had gone to sleep earlier. I hope not. If there are new heroes, that is a good sign. Lausanne said. Even if they seemed really, really weak. Artie smiled and sipped on his tea. We don't have a way out, sadly. All the ships in the nearest port city are all on official missions, either to deliver goods, carry men, or just carry critical supplies. They had attempted to buy their way out, but even the merchants rejected. The surviving kingdoms paid top dollar to the merchants to deliver the necessities. Many more merchants have been essentially nationalized during this period of time, and they operated shipping routes that supported the military. Even if the heroes have died, many cities still chugged along, protected by heroic items so freely given out a few decades ago. Still, they are stressed, as the heroic items had a long recharge time, and if the demons attacked frequently, they would eventually break through the defenses. Gerdarum too had one heroic item in its treasury. A massive mirror that collected energy and would release a heat ray that destroyed anything in its path. Still, it had an extremely long recharge time of 2 months, so the city reserved its use for the demon champions. Any lesser attack had to be repelled by the defense force. Some of the surviving cities had more heroic artifacts, and although that meant they had more weapons at their disposal, those cities were attacked more often. Blasphemy, when Lausanne highlighted that the demon kings can sense the presence of heroes and their star mana. But what else could it be? A few days later, Lausanne was summoned again. The heroes must leave the eastern continent, to somewhere that they can train. Lausanne immediately thought of the Rotted Lands, but she kept her mouth quiet. She knew that the priest would immediately say she is a heretic for even suggesting it. And, we want you, along with our elites to escort them to the port city on the western coast. We're not sure which city will be safe when you get there, so Port Hellas, Port Kella and Port Lawad are all on standby. Huh, what did such a statement mean? There's a large pack of drakes spotted. 50 drakes. The adventurers and veterans next to Lausanne immediately gulped. Some of them quickly said, "My lord, that's too much for us, even if we are escorting heroes. Couldn't the heroes handle them?" Lausanne asked. "It's complicated." The priest sighed. "They are unable to use their powers for the time being." Lausanne frowned. That didn't sound good at all. There must be a catch. The demons are looking. If we keep them here in our city, a large army of drakes will soon attack this city. For the good of this city, we must take them away. How could the demons find the heroes? Can't we teleport them away? Lausanne asked. We've recently noticed the presence of some kind of magical interference. We're not sure what, and we do not dare to risk it. And as strange as it seemed, we must face the evidence that the demons are able to see the heroes, somehow. The priests of course shook their heads. The demons must have found a way to twist the gods' blessings. But regardless, we must escort the heroes of the city. The gods command it. Lausanne mentally eye-rolled. So escorting heroes past a large pack of drakes is your preferred solution? Lausanne challenged the Lord, and the Lord frowned. Alternatively, a priest said, if there could be a big enough distraction, a team of adventurers with fast horses can rush the heroes to the port city. One of the adventurers present suggested, maybe they'll just go away. The demons may just move away after some time. That's a possibility. We could wait, but like I said, we're painting a target on our back. May I speak to the heroes? Lausanne suddenly asked. She wanted to know how useless, or what level these heroes are. Sure. The priest said. She gave a light nod, and left the discussion. Lausanne found the 3 heroes in one of the houses provided by the Lord. They were practicing with weapons. Hello. Hi. Are you one of the Lord's people? One of the guys asked. The 3 heroes were 2 boys and 1 girl. The girl immediately smacked the guy. She's one of those who came for us. Oh. Definitely the Lord's people. Lausanne smirked. May I? They nodded, and Lausanne sat on a wooden stool next to them. They continued practicing, at least, one of them. The girl was the first to talk. Why are you here, lady? I am Lausanne. I am one of the independent combatants employed by the Lord. I just wanted to talk to you, and get a sense of why we're having this issue. Oh, the 3 heroes just stopped. I'll be direct. Is there a problem with your powers? Lausanne wanted to understand what the priest meant by, unable to use their powers. The 3 heroes fumbled a bit. One of the boys was first to answer, yes. They sat together, and the boy, Alvin, was the one that explained. It's complicated, but when we died in a bus crash, we met this god. He called himself Claude, and he said, well, we were summoned under extraordinary circumstances. Lausanne nodded. Go on. So, he briefed us quickly that the earlier group failed, so we are now tasked to fix the mistakes. But because we are an emergency team, we had a bit more restrictions. One of which is that our powers are locked for 1 year. We can level in our ordinary classes, but Hero is stuck at level 1, and our Blessing of the Gods is inactive. It's also locked for a year. Lausanne nodded. They were essentially regular people, then. Why do you need to leave the continent? We can't even fight the drakes. There's no way we can level. Alvin repeated. The girl, Kay, then added. And Claude, that god fellow, said we should get out of the continent, and come back when we're stronger. I see. Hans was the other boy. He just nodded along. Alvin continued. So, we asked the Lord to help us. We go back to the easy places, farm ourselves to a higher level, then come back and kick the demon's ass. Kay smacked the boy. Stop talking shit, Alvin. Hey, I am just saying we're gonna kick those demons' ass once we have our hero powers. What's wrong with that? All we gotta do is survive for a year. We've already survived a month. Lausanne just smiled. I'll come over and practice with you kids, alright. It was weird to refer to them as kids, because they were the heroes, but Lausanne had to admit they were kids. At least, until you get your ticket out of this place. Alright. Waiting was a good choice. About a month after, the flock of demon drakes attacked somewhere else, and there was a small window of opportunity. They quickly rushed the heroes to the port town. Lausanne also took that chance to get her family to the port city. But there were no ships willing to take them. All seaworthy ships were used for the military and temple affairs. We say goodbye here, Lady Lausanne. Kay bowed. Thank you for practicing with us, and telling us about the world. It's fine. Remember, it's a secret you can tell no one else. Lausanne spoke of her experience meeting Harris, the other heroes, and of the Freshlands when they practiced. The 3 heroes nodded. To them, it was a perspective different from what the priests have shared. Well, keep it in mind. A ship would take them to the southern continent, where they would grind and practice for at least a year, and get their hero levels up. The heroes left that day. As for Lausanne and family, they searched for ships to take them to the central continent. None was available, even if they were willing to go to the cursed continent. Then, Lausanne stumbled on the old dockyards, where many damaged ships were under repair. Some of the ships were in terrible condition, and so were put up for sale. That was when she had an idea. The ships were made of wood, after all, and her warden allowed her access to some of Eon's rather strange abilities, even if they were weaker. If I buy the ship, can I sail it wherever I want? Well, yes. It's your ship. But we're full making ships for the army and the merchant corps. The dock manager said, and she soon confirmed it with everyone else. Lausanne just smiled, and she thanked Eon for warden. So, she bought one of the damaged ships. They were adventurers, naturally they had money. Furthermore, the damaged ships were cheap, since repairs would cost a bomb anyway, so no sane seagoing merchant was going to pay a lot of money. Artie returned from the tavern with a crew and a captain. It wasn't hard to convince sailors to sail with them, all Thats needed is money. So, where's our ship? They were all gathered before the unrepaired ship, its wood some parts rotten and broken. Lausanne climbed aboard, sat in the middle, and in an instant, a green flash of light. Her body temporarily merged with the wood of the ship, and it's as if the ship itself returned to life. Rotten wood started to heal, and broken pieces regrew. It took about an hour, but to the crew and captain, it was strange to see a ship heal itself. Woodcrafting and wood magic. In the same way she and Warden could create wooden spears out of thin air, linking to wooden structures and revitalizing them was just an extension of that ability, taken to a larger scale. Alright, let's go, let's go. This ship will not fail as long as my magic feeds it. We're getting our asses out of here. It was a rocky journey, the oceans were not known for pleasant weather. But with a ship that doesn't break, and Lausanne could even directly steer the ship by linking Warden to the wooden rudders, it wasn't that bad. Just a bit of vomiting here and there. They also fought some monsters along the way, nothing too large or scary. Mostly just common ocean pests. A few of the crew died from sea monster attacks too, but eventually, after 2 months of sailing, they finally saw land. C-113 Seeds of a Lineage. Year 142 continued. This year, one of my FTC graduates class transformed into Eonic Lord. I don't recall ever seeing any of the nobles obtaining such a class, so, its presence was quite a surprise to me. I am able to upgrade a class to its Eonic variants, but so far no lord or noble had ever approached me to do so. So, rather than be assured, I suddenly felt that all my nobles were not as loyal as I thought they were. Perhaps it's a matter of faith, rather than loyalty. My artificial mind suggested. I believe many are loyal. In their hearts, you are their king, but not their god. That's certainly possible. The mechanisms of faith are not truly understood. At the same time, I revisited my Anointed King class again. If I gave it to him, what would happen? Perhaps the Eonic Lord is an entry-level class into the whole path of Eonic-aligned noble classes. Kraviak, the relatively young student, was a treefolk noble. It's appropriate, I suppose, that the tree folks are the first to believe in my divinity. A young sapling in his mid-30s, he was born in the early days of the Freshlands, and grew up in a merchant house in the inner segments, and then later, granted his own territory as his family were one of the pioneer settlers of the outer segments. The treefolk had been one of the first to embrace my divinity, and so, my artificial mind's suggestion certainly had a basis. Kraviak. I spoke to the young treefolk lord, and like all my other Eonic classers, I could sense him very clearly. He immediately prostrated in the way tree folks always had. Praise the tree. Patrick's scan of his memories and thoughts was like flipping through the mind of a zealot. One who believed everything. Faith. And more. Please, how can I be of service? Well done on achieving your class. I started with praise. I wanted to know more from the person. You are the first I know of. You honor me, your holiness. Holiness. That didn't seem right. I certainly am not holy. I prefer to be referred to as Eon. Yes, Eon. Tell me, how do you feel about your new class? What does it do? Kraviak was still prostrated on the floor. My level 20 Eonic Lord granted me a mix of Eonic weapons and blessed lands which supports agriculture, husbandry and forestry. I see. So the Eonic Lord is essentially a nature-focused lord, similar to a druid and lord. A variant, I suppose, of the druidic lords. Progress was made on our anti-air research. We've developed beetles able to fire thorny projectiles, similar to a mobile anti-air tank. The choice for thorny projectiles, instead of their own body parts, is simply because we wanted to amplify the damage dealt, by using anti-demon wooden ballista bolts. So, a battalion of ballista beetles could carry a load of 3 to 5 anti-demon bolts each, which they could then use to rain death on an army of flying demons. They would unfortunately be defenseless once they exhausted their anti-demon bolts, but no matter. I was still quite proud of Horns. This was like a medieval beetle version of a V2 rocket launcher. If I wanted to make beetles with unlimited ammo, it is possible, but usually that would compromise on their range and their actual damage output. So, if I wanted beetles who could provide long-range support with high amounts of damage, separate ammunition from the launcher was a good idea. After all, I've been making anti-demon bolts all this time. The next matter was an issue of force projection. I am now a continental power, and as a continental power, there will be occasions when I need to project significant force in a particular location. Currently, I can do so by spawning multiple, giant attendant trees, but I believe that's insufficient. So, I decided to activate my second, Titan Soul, on the walker. The idea would be to make the giant walker into a mobile anti-air fortress, loaded with all the anti-demon bolts and ballista beetles. That way, I could station it on the eastern coast, facing the eastern continent. The walker, I hoped, would be a walking Aegis supercruiser. At the same time, my master woodworkers and war fletchers focused on making stronger, more powerful anti-demon bolts. Together with mages, who wove and enchanted the bolts with flight and target-seeking abilities, these were the magical equivalent of second-generation surface-to-air anti-demon projectiles. This was a development that started 5 years ago, when we found out about the flying drakes, and has roots in the first anti-demon bolts and spears. Next up, would be to figure out a way to cram more soul power into it, essentially adding nuclear-tipped weaponry into my arsenal. The walker's corpse, now covered with trees, bushes, vines and animals who lived in it, shook. It's as if the ground itself broke apart. New trees emerged as the Titan Soul lodged itself in the center of the massive corpse. Its rejuvenating energy repaired broken limbs and made new ones out of wood and stone. It took a while, about 3 months, for the Titan Soul's energies to imprint itself on the massive building, and then finally, it was ready. When it first rose out of the overgrown forest around it, the entire city was immediately on high alert. They thought a monster had appeared. We even received requests for help from the nearby kingdoms when they saw the massive tree-covered walker starting to walk. Do not engage. That thing is a special minion of Eon. The massive walker mentally contacted me once it was fully awake. Walker reporting for duty. Ah yes, I must grant you a name. You shall be Hytrerian. Your first assignment is to walk to Freshka, where you will be outfitted. It took about a week for it to walk from the Lily's Lake to Freshka, guided by my artificial minds. As it was as large as a walker, it had to take a path away from residential centers. Perhaps for my artificial minds, it's similar to guiding a massive truck. Once it arrived, I had Hytrerian loaded up with ballista beetles, a massive armory for all the anti-demon bolts and weaponry, and also it needed to be outfitted for habitation. Hytrerian came default with multiple rooms, similar to empty, customizable rooms. How many people should be the crew? Demon walkers don't need crew, why should this need a crew? It was slower than a beetle, but it could walk without ever needing rest, so in long distances it would be just a bit faster. But since it needed to detour around habited spaces, it would still take longer to get anywhere. In the end, after I explained just a few key traits of the walker, the Valthorns eventually developed a crew. There would be at least 2 upgraded classers, 1 great druid, and 1 sharpshooter, and a few commanders. Outfitting Hytrerian took a month, and we spawned a special biolab in Hytrerian's back, which allowed the person inside to communicate with Hytrerian and provide navigation guidance. I expect Hytrerian to be mostly guided by my artificial minds, but I had to prepare for the possibility that my communication network could break up should the Demon King have a massive jamming ability. After all, it happened once, I'd be a fool not to prepare for it again. During the process, Hytrerian's presence was a havoc of its own. The TreeTree college students had a mixed view of my presence, and Patrick detected multiple messages that spoke of Hytrerian to the rest of the continent. Even though we're technically on the same side, there's still a huge amount of suspicion among each other. Some of them were rather factual, a lot were just hyperbole. Some had a mix of worry and suspicion that I'd somehow managed to create a walker-class creature. For the Trilogy priests, they were more deferential. They converted one of the customizable rooms into a prayer room, and even asked for a tree of prayer to be placed in the walker. They spoke of this as a fact of divinity. The commoners were just disturbed for a few days, and then they got used to it. The Valthorns and the Valtrian order were just busy outfitting the Hytrerian. They got to see it up close, and the ballista beetles that have settled into the tree towers on Hytrerian's back. Once Hytrerian was ready and fully equipped with all the anti-air weapons I can cram in it, it made the slow walk across the continent to the eastern seaboard of the central continent. I reckoned that the demons, should they arrive, will come from the east. They were not going to fly a curved path, unless there were islands that they could stop along the way. I continued to experiment on the tainted demon crystal core, and I struggled to comprehend it. I could tap into the aspect of the core that was a native, but I've not been able to activate the other part, which was the demonic energies. Maybe it's not a good idea to use it. I wondered whether using demonic energy was a step too far, in the same league as blood magic. If anything, demonic magic would make me a target for the heroes. The heroes have some kind of demonic sensing ability, so using demonic mana would instantly flag me. Still, I'll deal with that later. Even if just for the knowledge. Small battles broke out during the year, and we captured a few more temple navies. Some of them just surrendered without a fight, some attacked the cities outright. It was strange, but the navies were getting desperate, and the blockade began to crumble. As the news of the navies deserting their blockade locations, more kingdoms pulled back their navies. It happened rather quickly too, and suddenly, there was no blockade anymore. It ended rather naturally, and didn't even require any offensive from us. It was a rather big letdown for the young sailors and navies who were itching for a big break the blockade kind of fight. I suppose that's how wars are lost sometimes, the logistics and planning at the back of it crumbled. Now that the blockade's over, it's a lot easier for pirates and merchants to sneak to the other continents. They would have to quickly disguise their ships and attire to fake themselves as locals, but that's a lot easier than fighting a navy. Some of the ports usually would be willing to turn a blind eye if the right amount of money was paid. So, news from the other continents trickled in. It seemed that there were 3 new heroes, all appeared on the eastern continent, right in the battlegrounds. They were saved by the temple's forces, who had been forewarned. Are the gods of the temples the same one that summoned them? I remember having this conversation with Harris, Mireille and Gerard, and they were not sure. It seemed like there's some kind of overlap, but it was also possible the gods took different forms with different people. They are trying to escape though, and that stirred a bunch of rumors about the new heroes being eunuchs or impaired. Then, Lausanne returned. At least, she and her family, plus a lot of others sailed a wooden ship to one of the ports. The ship was in bad shape, but it seemed that their skills somehow allowed them to escape and navigate through the ocean. Lofen was overjoyed. Everyone close to that group was relieved. I felt relieved too. At first, when the ship landed, no one knew who they were. But the moment she landed on the shore, the eastern coast was filled with my trees, so she was immediately in the range of my telepathic communication. So once I told Jura, a huge convoy of beetles was on the way. That was when I met little Arlissa. The young 1-year-old half-elf toddler girl. There was something about her that was different, the way her soul seemed to resonate with my spiritual vision so easily. Was this because of Lausanne's overlong exposure to my energies and the familiar? The second generation was therefore more adapted to it. Why was I even thinking of it from an evolutionary angle? Maybe she really just was special, and was born with a special gift, like how Indra had his gift, that gave me this vision. Tree. It wasn't a voice, but more of a thought. TreeTree. Arlissa could respond to me telepathically even though she's only slightly more than 1. I thought that was way too early. Your daughter. She's cute, right? Lausanne smiled, and she introduced Arlissa to her grandmother. Lofen was just overwhelmed. She's been away for years and now she came back with a kid. What's she supposed to think? Why didn't you contact us? I couldn't. All the normal communication lines were interrupted, and my flying birds kept getting attacked by the drakes. For the rest of the crew, we offered them hospitality in the port city. They were in a continent that was said to be cursed, at least for the past 10 years, so they had a lot of preconceptions to adjust to. Most of them were just massively surprised to see normal people, instead of mutants. For Lexi, Artie, Lausanne and Arlissa, they were on a convoy of beetles back home. I am going to stay put for a while. Lausanne said. You're only staying put because you have a daughter. Lofen teased her. Well, maybe that's true. Lausanne shrugged. Once back, Lausanne soon told me about what she learned from the heroes, and her time in the Eastern continent. There were parts she omitted, but she was not aware of Patrique's abilities, so I soon learned of her house arrest by the Ivan Church, and her subsequent contract of community service. The heroes were handicapped. They would take a while before they are even able to kill the Demon King. All this pointed to one thing. Why is the Demon King not more aggressive? This sort of circumstance should result in an aggressive Demon King. Unless something resulted in it not being able to do so. Did the earlier generation of heroes almost win, that the Demon King is still recovering? Or, are the demons programmed to just go to sleep even if it did win? If so, what is the point of this conflict then? More importantly, why did the god even give the new heroes a handicap? They must have weighed their chances, and the gods must know something. Is the Demon King unable to move for the next 1 year? That's why the gods do this. Or is the handicap just an outcome of the second time summoning within a short period? I wished I could ask more, but Lausanne's knowledge only went so far. Maybe even the heroes don't know the answer. But the gods must know about the handicap, so the fact that they went ahead with it meant they knew the chances of survival are decent. Greater than the new heroes have a handicap, no why. Less than Lily's was one of those I asked. Puzzling. I had Lausanne's daughter, Arlissa, tested in the biolab. The young toddler was turning 2, and I wanted to know what made her able to respond to me telepathically. As I dived into the young child's soul, I noted it was still unformed. There was a small spring in the middle without any bricks around it. The shores were still shifting and moving. This was normal for young children. I recall Lausanne herself was unformed at that age. Then, I noticed a little green crystal right in the spring. Inherited Eonic compatibility, hereditary 2 generations, skill transforms into, blessed by a soul tree, if conditions met, or will be lost. Inherited skills, locked, will transform to new skills on maturity. If Lausanne's able to pass on skills, master, I believe Jura and Lofen may be able to pass on skills too. Patrique said. Given Jura's level and his unlocked soul, it would be highly likely that he can pass on a good number of skills. We should also consider those with the upgraded classes like Edna, Ferris, whether their descendants will have inherited skills. If we can merge their skills with those from the nobles, it would create individuals of extremely high potential. Yes. But why doesn't everyone have inherited skills? Everyone has their own parents, and their parents all must be of a certain level. Surely there must be some condition. And why was this the first time I've seen a hereditary skill? I've heard of it from Patrique and the nobles, but surely, I've seen so many Valthorns and so many others. Or do all the hereditary skills transform into a regular skill once they hit a certain age, or just disappear? If they all transformed, perhaps I've been looking at them when they were older, and the hereditary skills by then, already transformed into something else. Or am I looking in the wrong place? Or perhaps, like my soul forge, I needed a different lens to view them. Anyone else has blessed by a soul tree? Patrique immediately came up. Based on the last checkup of the Valthorns, there are 6 others who possess the skill. But their blessing is only the basic level, not like Lausanne's advanced blessing. Problems of an empire. I've delegated most of the biolab's scanning to my artificial minds. But I can't be mentally everywhere at once, even if I sort of am everywhere, physically. I want to observe all the Valthorns and upgraded classers' children. This includes nobles. I want to know how this hereditary skill thing works. Glad you finally agree, Master. I am not agreeing. I am just analyzing. C-114 Registry. Year 143. We've made contact with a few secretly dissatisfied kingdoms, and of them, a few more agreed to establish covert trade relations. Rather than fly any national flags, the trade would go via ships that looked like, behaved like, and manned by pirates. Privateers, essentially. We would also need to arrange with some independent islands to act as trading intermediaries, to cover up the paperwork and trail, disguising the origin of goods. We're some pariah state, at least, in the eyes of the 4 temples, but clearly not all kingdoms think so, even if they can't disagree publicly, given how far we are. I suppose we're like a certain nuclear state in that sense. It was also a good way to formally engage many out-of-work merchants that have already turned to piracy anyway. So, the FFA organized a project to convert a few of the smaller port cities into pirate dens, where all these out-of-work merchants can start their new careers as state-sanctioned privateers and merchants. This was where the trade lord, that young noble from before, volunteered to take up the task of changing the port cities for this purpose. One of the allied kingdoms was rather miffed, but we offered to compensate him for letting us run one of the port cities, in the form of tax revenues. Someone else was going to accept the terms anyway. I spawned a few more artificial mines to track the ships that call on the ports. There was always a risk that real pirates would then come to these fake pirate dens, and the only way we could spot it is if we tracked the ships that were on our side, and those who were not. The crews could change too, so the artificial mines were there. One of these fake pirate dens was in a swampy area, and I'd imagine it looked like some pirate movie, complete with the mist and faint glowing lights that lurked in the swamp trees. Swamps. That's a relatively new territory for me, in the sense that there's still a lot of research to be done on swamp-adapted plants. I've used the biolab to analyze quite a few of the swamp samples over the past few years, and did gain some understanding, but my focus has been on anti-air weapons and expanding the anti-air and anti-humanoid competencies of my beetles and spiders. I do have the magic poop-resistant plants from a few decades ago, so those also can be considered a type of swamp plants, but those are more of a freshwater swamp type of plant. The issue is really saltwater. These swamps are next to the sea and ocean, and saltwater tends to make the regular plants feel dry and quickly they would die. I also had to quickly barriers for my roots, so as not to draw too much salt into my root networks. My main body is adapted to all kinds of environments, and that also includes saltwater, so I could control my roots' behavior to a certain extent. But maintaining a connection to the saltwater and swamp plants meant placing some filters in place. If I want to ever cross the ocean, the first barrier I'd have to pass is to develop saltwater adapted plants. That's ignoring all the other issues such as high underwater pressures, monsters, possibly underwater druids, underwater civilizations, and possibly even eldritch monsters. I'd probably start by finding a small island somewhere across the sea and attempt a small crossing. Conceptually, that should not be so different from growing a root under the riverbed. Especially if the roots are deep enough not to be affected by the saltwater. Anyway, I digressed. The Demon King has not been spotted leaving the eastern continent. After the collapse of the blockade, and also from Lausanne's experience on that continent, it turned out that a lot of small cities have managed to survive, as they went underground. By Lausanne's own measure though, about 70–80% of all kingdoms have been destroyed. The actual casualty rate is probably around 40 to 50%, as most of the citizens have fled once the demons started to expand. This even included nobles and royalty, who fled to allied kingdoms, or those with blood relations on other continents. The few kingdoms that are left are usually maritime-focused nations, that had cities based on the islands, or those who built their cities into mountains or other easily fortified locations. Yet, no demon king spotted. The demon drakes have been flying and attacking the maritime nations, and so far, only the demon champion-class giant drakes have been spotted. I used my magical sensors to try and understand what's happening, and couldn't detect anything either. Also, that batch of heroes did arrive and attack the Demon King, and they were slightly above level 100, all of them. So, I am predicting that the Demon King is either injured rather badly that it needs to recover, or there's some residual energy left by the heroes that kept the Demon King immobile, or the Demon King itself cannot move by nature. If it's the last one, that would be a great relief to the world, but that certainly didn't align to the drakes. No one has seen the Demon King itself, actually. Only the heroes have dared venture close. Lausanne said. Now that she's back in Freshka, she's taken on the role as one of the Valthorn's military trainers, together with Artie. They've decided to put down their adventurer's hat and settle down as educators. For now. Lausanne, when she was younger, did not have much talent. I recall that I had to feed her so many memories and dreams before she developed combat sense. Or maybe she was just a late bloomer. But somehow I think Arlissa started with a natural aptitude. Even as a 2 to 3 year old little girl, she seemed like she easily mimicked the movement of her mother. I wonder whether it was because it was her mother that's teaching her, rather than anything genetics or inherited, but somehow, something told me she's gifted. I wonder if I concentrated my resources on her, would I make someone way stronger? Still, that family has been through so much, so I decided to look elsewhere. Now that there's almost an entire continent under my observation, it was possible for me to spend more effort. To spy and locate talent. To most of the civilians, they thought I derived this ability to locate talent by some kind of soothsaying or predictive ability, but in reality, it's just a massive network of observation trees, artificial minds to crunch the data, and then a layer of reviews. So, for very young children, I actually don't know anything, since the data needs to be gathered over a long period of time. This meant the earliest we drafted someone to join the Valtrian Order's early stage academies and training camps was around 7 or 8 years old. In a way, my observations of Arlissa constituted special treatment from me. Which was partly why. Just last year I started screenings for the children of nobles and those of retired Valthorns and Valtrian orders, and so far, I spotted some hereditary skills. Indeed, most hereditary skills are transient, in the sense that they would transform into another skill at a certain maturity period. That age differed by race, by skill, and by many other factors which I have yet to understand, and I needed a larger dataset to form anything conclusive. I wanted to institute mandatory screenings of young children in a biolab, at ages 3, and age 5, and then age 10, but from Patrick and the other artificial minds assessment, such screenings would be resisted. If anything, I needed to mask it as something else, and preferably, tap into faith and religion. Already, the priests perform some kind of ritual on young children, similar to blessings. So, we decided to expand the blessing ceremony on young children, so as to include a ceremonial dip in a biolab. Of course, the biolab would have to be shaped and formed to be compatible with the priest's blessing ceremony. A baptries M at ages 3, 5 and 10, if I may borrow from the religions of my world. The one aged 3 and 5 would be blessing with some additional nutrients and healing. The one aged 10 could be the coming of age ceremony. I gathered my patriarchs and matriarchs to roll out the new baptries M process. Again, ceremonies, processes and rituals were things priests loved. It gave them power and purpose. For the people, it gave them peace of mind. All for the purpose of gathering a massive dataset and assessment of the continent's talent pool. This was a massive undertaking only Patrick could handle, and even then I had to set up more artificial minds to take on the recording process, which led to me unlocking a new tree type. Unlocked new special tree type, the registry. The registry is a library of data, and can store all kinds of information. Jura sat one day and said something random. It's easy to believe that people are destined to do what they are meant to do, after all we are not heroes. But sometimes when I look at Lausanne, and remember how her parents were just ordinary elves, I think to myself, maybe it's really possible for people to exceed what they were originally destined to do. Even me, I thought I'd cap out at level 60 so many years ago, but since then, so much has happened, and now I am a level 99 warlord. You need one more level to hit 100. But I think his comment on destiny, perhaps this register I am building is very much like a caste system, isn't it? That I classify people by their innate talent and forego the part on people working hard and striving against the impossible. I know. Do you want to cheat? I offered him one experience seed, wrapped up in the shape of a fruit. I have a few hundred experience seeds anyway, and I've been hoarding it forever. I've always wanted to use it, but I reckon there must be a restriction of some kind. He smiled, and he bit it. We need every edge we can get, at this point. Once he finished eating, he felt his body ache, and then his entire body started cracking. Those cracks appeared, and then disappeared. It lasted for 10 minutes. Then once it was done, he smiled. Wow, I am a level 100 warlord of Eon. I suppose I should have seen that coming with Kravak's Eonic Lord. Jura laughed. Good skill too. Good. Steelwood barriers of Eon. Jura laughed. I can make your shields, with the same strength. Essentially, with this ability, he could stop Demon Walker attacks. Still, for a level 100 skill that's quite a letdown, now. But since I was on the topic of children and hereditary skills, I just casually asked. Jura, do you ever plan on having kids? Jura laughed again. He laughed for a good 10 minutes, then he stopped. 60 years ago, Cassern actually gave us a simple briefing on what to expect from spirit trees. For other spirit trees, it was common to receive questions about family, our intentions to breed, and they would bless our children. I was quite relieved that you didn't do any of that, so now, 60 years later, I wasn't expecting that question. Well, a part of me wanted to know whether his kids would have the kind of hereditary skills like Arlissa. If I meet the right person, maybe. Jura smiled. But as of now, I am fine being a lone twig. Trees now covered large swaths of the continent, and the rotted lands itself have been cut into multiple slices by rows and rows of trees, kind of like a pizza. In a way, the entire continent has never been so green and had so much forest cover. It even altered the weather. Some places that were once really hot started to become bearable, and some colder places warmed up. Rain also started appearing more frequently in the once dry zones. Forests generated their own microclimate, and amplified the creation of rain clouds. Milestone achieved. 300 billion normal trees linked on the central continent. The milestone triggered a level gain. You gained a level. Level 170. New domain ability obtained. Gift of accelerated growth. Once a year, you can cause any one person to hit level 60. Activating this ability gives you a full read of a person's classes. You may assign the additional levels. Does not work for those above level 60. Does not work for hero class. New domain ability obtained. Gift of accelerated skill evolution. Once a year, you can upgrade any one individual's skill of your choice by one tier. Does not work on hero or divine skills. I immediately wanted to test out my evolutionary powers, and my target was once again Jura. He was my guinea pig since so long ago, and once again, he will be again. The new ability was activated by a simple touch of a vine. Instantly, I could detect all the skills that he had, and they were separated into pools, which seemed to correspond to their types. He had his old villager skills, then those skills that were from his original diplomat and fighter skills, and now, warlord skills. This was a special time restricted power. Once a year isn't so bad, really. That meant 10 skill upgrades every Demon King. Not bad, in my opinion. I instantly chose the Steelwood Barrier. After all, it was his level 100 skill. Naturally, I should use it on his strongest skill. Of course, it's entirely possible some skills, when upgraded, become far more powerful than even the level 100 skill. Still, I have time, and now I just wanted to use it. It evolved into triple Steelwood Barriers of Eon. Whoa, cool. Now I need to figure out who to use it on, next. Can I use it on Lausanne or Arlisses, blessed by a soul tree? Dash. A lone ship sailed across the southern oceans. It was a fast, well-equipped and heavily armed ship. It came to one of the ports on our southern coast, and instantly the military was at high alert. It flew the flag of the temples. It wasn't aggressive, and it did not display any weapons, so the ship was escorted to the port's most distant dock. Just in case it carried explosive gems or weapons. This was, by and large, a trading port. It had just a few navy vessels in the dock. A Valthorn was thankfully in the city at the time, Eons, a level 53 centaur, spearmaster, so he ran to the port, fully armed and ready for a fight. The ship docked, and out came adventurers. The cursed continent, they said. The soldiers and Eons tensed up. That was a horrible way to start. The adventurers didn't look that interested. Don't worry, we're sailing off soon. A young girl hopped off the ship. The adventurers quickly climbed back up their ship, and then the ship started sailing. You guys aren't even going to come with me. The girl sighed, and then she turned to the soldiers. All right. Hi. The soldiers looked uncomfortable, their weapons were ready and armed. Eons put up a stern face. They stared at each other for a few seconds. Eons then started talking. All visitors from abroad are required to fill up the necessary forms. Have you completed your documentation? Do you have your papers? The girl froze, and shook her head. Do you have a merchant's trade letter, or an endorsement letter of your identity from your local authority? No. Are you traveling on a diplomatic license or a messenger's assignment? No. Then I am afraid you must come with us to our detention center and answer a bit more questions. She nodded. Okay. She was dressed also in typical adventurer armor and weaponry. At this point, I had not sensed her, only my artificial minds were monitoring the situation. In the detention center, she was interrogated by the Valtrian order. It was when she finally explained who she was, that the artificial minds sought my attention. My name is K. I am one of the 3 new heroes. Eons paused as he processed the information. He quickly chased everyone else out of the room. New heroes. The one from the second summoning. Yes. K stared at the centaur. The centaur merely stared back. He was quickly using his familiar to reach out to other Valthorns in the region. He took a few deep breaths and formulated a mental response. Why are you here, then? I am here to claim the hero weapons. The one left to us by my predecessors. There's no such thing. Eons lied intentionally. K frowned. I refuse to believe that. Take me to Eon. What gives you the right to demand an audience with our divine tree? The centaur played hardball. I am a hero. Prove it. A hero should be able to use star mana. She paused and sighed. My hero class is still low. I can't use star mana yet. Then what do you have as evidence of your hero status? She thought about it for a moment. Well, star mana isn't the only hero thing, right? May I demonstrate? I do need to be outside, though. Eons nodded. Come. In the port city, the Valthorns building is a small one, an additional building built next to the existing local ruling governor's building. Outside, there was a small field for the local recruits to practice. She sat, and then floated. Ship mode. Instantly, a magical frame appeared around her body, and it was shaped like a shipgirl with a magical frame of cannons and guns at her side. I can transform into magical adaptations of my world, and it'll get stronger when I level. Does that count as sufficient evidence? She honestly sounded embarrassed explaining it. A ship girl. Seriously. Who came up with that idea? Iasenos paused. That could be just some sophisticated illusion magic, but very well. I will raise a case with the regional Valthorn leadership for further advice. Until then, take this. Iasenos gave her a wooden belt. Tie this around your leg. That way, we know you've not fled. If I am a hero, I could just break it. If you break it for any reason, then we know you're not a good person anyway, even if you are a hero. So, it's in your interest not to break it. Kay smirked. I see. C-115 Deep Roots. Year 144. After a bit of bureaucracy, Kay and Lausanne were finally met again in Fresca. Hello again. Has the restrictions on your class lifted? Lausanne asked. Yes, it has, Lady Lausanne. Kay bowed. Lausanne was pretty much an old auntie for the 18-year-old Kay. I've leveled a bit after fighting regular monsters, but still, my hero levels are way too low. Only in the lower 20s. No way near enough, if what you told us last time was true. Well, the Rotted Lands is a fine anvil to hone any hero into a worthy shape. I may even take you there myself, but I have a kid to care for. Lausanne shrugged. Where's Alvin and Hans? Kay waited for a while. She pondered over her response. They don't believe me, right? Lausanne laughed. Yeah, they're really into the stories and legends the priests and temples fed them. So I had to travel alone. Well, you'll soon realize this continent does have its own propaganda. There was a period of awkward silence as both sized each other. Kay then continued. You spoke of Eons, weapons. A stockpile of hero items. I'd like to have them. It is not mine to give, but Eons. The previous heroes entrusted the task to Eon. It is for you to prove yourself worthy of them. Kay nodded. How may I do so? First, we'll need to get your levels up to at least level 70. Without star mana, the items are useless to you, for they respond to nothing else. I can't be waltzing into the Rotted Lands by myself, right? I am only level 20 plus in my hero class, and level 30 plus in my soldier class. Well, that's actually one of the best ways to level quickly. Put yourself in trouble and fight your way out of it. Or we can spar a bit more, under Ian's auspices and blessings. Would that make much of a difference? Kay asked. It will. But first, a familiar. Lausanne said. My black vines are from my familiar, and I am certain Eon wants you to have a familiar before he grants you access to the facilities available here. Is that a must? Yes. Okay then. I gave her a familiar at the temple, then they used one of the many training rooms with Yvonne present too. Yvonne as an upgraded training tree would also have an effect of accelerating her level gain. When Kay arrived at the end of last year, I had to decide what to do with the hero. It was clear I could not kill her. There was after all a moratorium on killing heroes until the Demon King died, and I wasn't going to risk a divine curse. I already have a suppressed demonic curse to deal with. So, after some consideration, and discussions with the many different councils, I decided assisting the heroes was the best choice. Get her on my side, and at least if the other two heroes are nasty, it'd be me and a hero vs 2 heroes, instead of me against 3 heroes. It was also better to learn what they know, and discover how their powers worked. I would even offer her a familiar, and reap the benefits if she died, just like the earlier bunch. So far the gods have not warned against taking my familiars, so that's a good thing. I wonder whether they really hate me, or they are just testing me in some kind of divine game. Or maybe, they don't have the ability to communicate directly with the heroes. The people of the world could receive divine messages, but I had not heard of stories where the heroes received divine messages. If the managers of the reincarnation process, Mozart and gang are not the same ones as the gods who summoned them, it is entirely possible that certain messages don't get through. Thinking back, Mozart did refer to the gods as if they were someone else. Or perhaps it is just a trick. Like seemingly different shops in a shopping mall all owned by the same person. Anyway, I decided to help her along. Level 60. Kay said after 2 weeks. She was quick, and the regular hybrids of the rotted lands now too weak for her. A level 60 hero was easily stronger than a level 80 Spearmaster or Grand Knight. It was just the nature of absurdly powerful classes like hero. Every few levels, a bit more of her regular mana transformed into star mana. By level 100, 100% of her mana is star mana, though she could change it to normal mana if she so desires. At least, that's how the earlier heroes had it. My two friends are only in the 40s back in the south, and still they refuse to come here. Well, a bit more for you to go. Perhaps, level 90, then Eon will see you. Alright. Dash. The next 30 hero levels came after 4 months of constant grinding. She had to travel the fractured rotted lands, to look for the giant hybrids, because only the massive hybrids gave her sufficient experience. Still, it's exceptionally fast leveling speed, but for the heroes, it still felt too slow. Still, I chose level 90, because I recall one of the first few heroes I met unlocked their heavenly forms at that level. His level 90 skill wasn't heavenly form. Instead, it was heavenly guns array. It created a massive star mana powered fortress around her with multiple magical floating flak cannon lookalikes. They had a large range, and clearly were meant to take out aerial opponents. She was, literally, a walking anti-air fortress. A ship girl. I had to resist really hard to ask whether she knew what a ship girl was. Damn. Finally back to civilization after hitting level 90. Kay said, finally back in a large city after spending her last few months camping out in the towns along the tree expressways. Those towns were her safe spot as she ventured into the rotted lands. We granted her a small escort, mostly as a guide. There really was no need to attach an upgraded Valthorn with her, since her level's already quite high, so her escorts were mostly a few regular Ionic priests, for healing, and a small squad of regular Valthorn soldiers and rangers. She quickly visited Lausanne. Somehow, Lausanne's her guide, even if she's still busy with Arlissa and just as a trainer. I am level 90 now, can I meet Eon and claim my weapon? Lausanne just bowed. I am afraid the right person to assist you is Jura. Oh, she met Jura in the Valthorn fortress, and quickly made her request. Yes, I believe Eon has been expecting you. Before that, there is someone Eon wants you to meet. Dash. K. This is Astia. She's a human from your world, I believe. Stella just nodded. She was nervous, afraid, and yet excited to meet someone from her own world. Hi. Hello. Kay just nodded. You're not a hero. She scratched her head, baffled. Stella just smiled at her question. No, I am an accident. Collateral damage. That's really strange. And rather than let you die normally, they send you here. Yeah. Did you die in a bus? Stella answered. She was more nervous. She now wondered why she even agreed to this. What did she want out of this meet, anyway? So what if the hero was from Earth? There was no way they could help her, is there? Those thoughts immediately made her blurt out. Do you know how to go back? Kay looked at Stella as if it was a strange question. Why would I want to go back? This world is awesome. I get magical powers, I can slay demons, and I get to live like a queen once I win. Stella immediately realized Kay was just like the first batch, the kids. They wanted to be in this world. Oh, I see. Well, good luck then. Stella gave a wave and walked away. Alright, can I claim my hero items now? Kay immediately changed the subject. Jura smiled and led her to a nice garden with a gazebo and a small area. There were cookies, fruits, tea, and some other refreshments. Well, I'll take you there. But first, a short break, shall we? I've got some questions to ask as well. Oh, okay. She sat down, took a sip and started snacking. Well, firstly, on behalf of Eon, what do you think is the role of a hero? Kay paused. Is that a trick question? Not really. Eon promised the previous generation of heroes that he will grant you a hero item, but he merely wanted to be sure. She took another sip. I don't know, actually. The gods we met, his name was Claude. He said we were, emergency summons. Our mission was to destroy the Demon King, and we would be rewarded for it. Hero-s probably too big a word for me. I don't think I am a hero, at least not yet, so I suppose you could consider us, demon exterminators. I see. Jura smiled. Have some cookies. They are good. Jura took one and had it too. Are you aware of the history of heroes and the demon kings? Yeah, I got the broad gist of it. The priests we met told us about how the world had regular demon kings and us heroes are summoned to fight them. It's just the way the world is, a constant cycle of destruction and rebirth. Evil monsters from the beyond, and heroes to stop it. Well, lately, the destruction has been far too heavy for the world to bear. It is no longer just a regular forest fire, but an inferno that engulfed a continent. If there was a way to stop this cycle, would you ever take it? Kay froze at the question, and seemed to have a headache. She didn't respond for a good minute, her eyes were blank. I am sorry. It was just really difficult for me to think somehow. She took a big sip of tea. It's okay. Jura smiled. Take all the time you need. I think that's a choice not for me to decide. I mean, the god entrusted me to slay the demon king, I think I should do it. It's my purpose, you know. Is it really your purpose, or a purpose that was placed on you? Again, she took another big sip of tea and ate some of the fruits. Whoa, we're onto some heavy conversations before I get the hero items, isn't it? Well, have you not wondered why it's so natural for you to want to kill demons? Why with such passion and determination? Kay seemed to struggle to respond. You know, these questions are really making my head spin. I don't know, but demons are the bad guys, right? I am given all these powers to kill demons, so what do I do, if not kill demons? Jura smiled at the young girl. Surely, when all you have is a hammer. Everything looks like nails. Kay continued. So yes, I have anti-demon powers, I am gonna use them, and then after I win, I am going to take a break. It seemed that Kay's mindset is quite heavily affected by the hero power. Almost more than the previous generation, or is this because she has yet to see the destruction that follows? What was on your mind when you arrived in the Eastern continent? Destruction. So much destruction from the Demon King. It's only right we defeat them. Jura realized at that point it was pointless to continue. I believe that's enough. Come. Jura led her into the Valley of the Unrodden. It was a relatively long walk, there were no beetles to ferry them, even though that is possible. Jura led her to one of the large giant attendant trees within, and inside it, there was a room with a selection of hero items. Well, on all the tables are the hero items. The previous heroes said that you may choose one. Only one. Yes, one item. And we will need you to contribute back to the treasury as well, by making a hero item. Kay paused and thought. Anything else? There are some journals left by the heroes, they are meant for your reading, but cannot be taken. You may also leave your own journals, if you feel like it. Jura left her alone inside, and that was the first time I telepathically spoke to her. Kay. She froze. Eon. Yes. These are belongings of Harris, Gerard and Mireille, they came almost 60 years ago. They started the 4 decades of peace, when they held back 4 demon kings consecutively. I see. She sat down and she was drawn to the journals first. She started reading the handwriting notes. I wasn't privy to the contents, since the journal itself was sealed. Yet, it opened for her so naturally, as if it detected another hero. She spent a few hours with the journals, and I thought I saw her weep at a few points. There was a kind of heroic energy in the journals that blocked my ability to eavesdrop or observe, and I certainly wasn't aware of this ability. It was when she finally closed the journal that I could talk to her again. But she was just stunned. She didn't say a word for another 30 to 45 minutes, but I could see she was thinking really, really hard. Eon, she asked after that period of silence. Yes. Do you still have herbal-infused wines? Or teas? The strongest ones. A small teapot appeared in the giant attendant tree, and hot water too. She quietly brewed the tea and sipped it, her mind still spinning. Patrick could not read her mind once she passed level 40 as a hero. She sat there and sipped. I wasn't ready to see those visions. Kay said. Sorry, I've got no idea what is in the journals. I mean, they left memories behind in the journals. Some kind of dream spell that contained a fragment of themselves. It's like a part of them still lived in the journal. I certainly wasn't aware that a journal could be made so powerful. But since it was made with star mana, I suppose anything is possible. The gods want us to kill the demon and keep the cycle going, isn't it? Well, yes, but they also want us to die, so that the world's constantly in turmoil. I had no answer. Do you believe what the heroes said? I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, that this demon and us were the gods' way of resetting the system. Keep this world stagnant and stuck in a perpetual state of war. Do you believe that? That's just one of the theories. Without asking the gods, no one knows. I suppose that sounded like one of the crazy musings Gerard had. I didn't know he recorded that into the journal. She sat. She looked like she was about to have a nervous breakdown. It changes nothing for you, really. The gods have already predestined that you must slay the demon king, or die. That is a task you have. I can choose to do nothing. She had a headache again, and she quickly took a sip of the tea. Your two friends will do it for you, or they will die trying. It is best you go with them. Again, knowledge only changes your perspective, but not the task at hand. Kay sat for a while, and then she stretched. Yes, you were right. And I too, should do my part. She walked over to the journal, and she channeled her star mana into it. The journal glowed, and I thought it became bigger. She then spent the next few hours analyzing the other hero items, and a few more hours making more hero items. All in, she spent almost 3 days there and she left with a spear. But I felt she changed. I am really curious what's in the journal now. Thank you, Eon. I must now depart and join my friends. It will be time for me to do my duty, whether we like it or not. Good luck. Kay left Freshka, and started her journey to return to the eastern continent. She would have to travel from Freshka, and journey to the port cities on the eastern coast, and then arrange for a special pirate ship that would smuggle her there. How are you, Astia? Stella was in her studio, working on her paintings and posters. That little meet with Kay didn't go as well as I liked, and strangely, it made her turn to painting. I am fine. No, she's not. Her mental indicators were a mess. She felt lonely, alone in the world. She wondered whether death would return her to her own world, and yet she lacked the guts to actually kill herself. There was no one who could help her. All right, I decided not to push it. The door is always open should you ever need to speak, or want to go somewhere. The central continent is home to many beautiful sights, and if you wish, I may arrange someone to go with you. Thanks. Her mind still locked up. I could force it open, but I decided not to. Perhaps she needs meditation. Even though it's been years since she arrived, she's still not yet accepted reality. Her mind clung onto her old world, no matter how painful her life there was. She still yearned to go home. She had no friends, but many acquaintances. I had tried to create environments for her to make friends, but she couldn't let anyone in. So it didn't go anywhere. The runic formations necessary for a supermassive blood ritual were 60% complete. Creating them was far harder than I expected. Containing the energies that such a ritual would release was one of the two main struggles. The second point of difficulty was then compressing such a massive ritual into a single shot. Runes were hard, especially at large scales. I hope that I never have to resort to such bloody tactics. On other preparations, Hytrerion, my tree walker, was idle. It was a massive anti-air fortress and it sat at the edges of the eastern continent. It could not walk or swim across the ocean, and I wondered whether flight was a good idea. But then, I also doubt a flying titan could swim across the ocean. It was a distance far too large to bridge. Still, the trade lord's efforts to convert a few of the port cities into mini pirate dens were quite successful. Piracy had a kind of charm to it, and as a privateer, it was even better. They had legal backing of the central continent. The eastern continent managed to hold on, even if so many have died. The Demon King clearly is incapacitated or sealed to some effect. At the same time, I wanted to activate my two unique classes. Lozan. I have a special class, Ionic Demonslayer. Do you want it? No. Perhaps you could offer it to Jura. Why not? I think I don't deserve this special treatment. Lozan said. I certainly lack the kind of genius talent needed to maximize such a class. After spending such a long time as an adventurer, I realized my talents honestly just above average. My main advantage is really my high levels, and the unique abilities that you gave me. In the hands of someone truly talented and gifted, I think your powers can go much further. And at the same time, it's also fear. I may not live up to the expectations such a special class would have, and I may do stupid things. It's motherhood, isn't it? But I didn't say it. So, please, offer it to someone else. Very well. C-116 Gated Gardens. Year 145. The eastern continent's war against the demons increased in intensity. The heroes returned, and with it, they brought superior, star mana-powered firepower. The heroes could take on large flights of drakes, and that meant the war was starting to shift in favor of the natives. We know this, because the temple's propaganda machine is in full swing, boasting of the heroes' success in defeating the demons. So, the powers of the three heroes were now public knowledge. Kay essentially was a mobile flak fortress. Alvin was a mobile missile site and he fired magic missiles by the thousands. Hans was the mobile beam weapons and drones person. Strange that the gods opted for ground-based anti-air powers, instead of giving the heroes flight and ability to fight mid-air. With their powers, the Drakes were not a challenge. They just could not be everywhere at the same time. There were too many fronts, too many cities and towns under the attack of the Drakes. The Drakes have multiplied tremendously over the past few years, and swarms of 50 to 300 giant Drakes were now common sight. Lausanne described them as mobile flying fortresses, and were quite like dragons that shed seen in her many dreams. I was expecting the war to end soon. The heroes would win, I think. In the central continent, the ruling class generally believed the Demon King was a goner. They didn't think the heroes would fail the second time, even if they were the second batch. Personally, I think they would succeed, simply because the Demon King must be in a weaker state, perhaps due to damage from the earlier battles with the first batch of heroes. So, our focus was mainly on restoring the trade connections that had been lost over the past decade of war, and it was getting easier. In particular, a few of the island nations, there were some volcanic island nations located nearer to the center of the oceans, that were keen to support us and essentially become our intermediaries. Unlike the continental kingdoms where the temple's influence is strong, these volcanic islands had a lot more to gain, and honestly, not much to lose. That said, since most of our ships disguised themselves as pirate ships, privateers all, they had multiple sea battles with the navies of those continental kingdoms. We lost quite many ships, but it was fine. On the northern continent, often referred to as the Northern Isles, a few independent kingdoms went as far as permitting our merchant ships to dock, without a need to change our flags. Overall, a good sign that trade and global relations were somewhat thawing. I really don't see the point of pointless battles. Solving the Demon King in the long run was a bigger problem. The central continent is big, and even though almost all of the kingdoms and nations in the continent are now allied to my, either formally or indirectly, there are still places where my route network and trees only have a little coverage. Since many of these new kingdoms are relatively new to my growing federation, we had focused our subsidiary trees in the habited zones. This was in line with our support of the treological priest's social and charity work. It would be quite similar to a network of expressways linking all the large habited zones, since I also needed the network of trees to break through the shattered rotted lands, and also to act as beacons for the beetle truckers. Therefore, in spite of my vast network, there are still gaps. And where there are gaps, there are mysteries to be explained, and monsters I have yet to meet. So, in the northern areas of the central continent, in a forest I recently just expanded to, we heard a creature calling out to us. I sense a spirit in our midst. A large giant wolf spoke. It looked every part like a regular giant wolf animal, but the very fact that it spoke meant it was not ordinary at all. It seemed to be having a conversation with something, or someone. You are right, perhaps it can hear us. The wolf somehow said. So, spirit, show yourself. I thought about this for a moment, and decided to telepathically speak. There was something strange about his form as a wolf, perhaps it is not really a wolf. Greetings. The wolf paused, and it looked around. I see. A spirit of the land. I am Eon, a tree spirit. Akrenif, wolf of the hunt. I had no idea what that was. It seems you speak the common tongue. I am both wolf and man, and there are two of us in our body as we speak. My spiritual vision seemed to clear up, and then I saw a wolf, and something like a man. But it's not really separated. The man in me is Varric the Brave, a human shaman who died a century ago. I see. You are. It paused, and then it seemed puzzled. Where is your body? Far, far away. So, strange. Not as strange as two souls in a single body. I don't recall that as possible. One soul should have purged the other. I focused my energies, my roots linked to more trees. The trees around them all added to my spiritual sense. We are not really two souls. Our souls fused, and we are one, but we are of two minds. Split personality. That's a lot easy to digest. How? Varric the shaman has a unique ritual skill called living memory. It made his soul into a memory able to latch onto anything, or in this instance, me. Akrenif said. The wolf killed him a century ago. I was but a normal wolf then. The memory changed the wolf, and it gained levels since then. It is now far stronger than before, and yet, it refused to leave its forest. I am dominant, but his memories, voices, magic and thoughts remain in me. He lives through me. Fascinating. Well met, Akrenif, wolf of the hunt. It howled. Akrenif was a wolf that guarded this forest, and as a wolf, he is, in many ways, a monster like me. Yet, it had memory of the world, and thought, and so it gained levels. As my roots spread throughout the forest. This was a young forest. It was not older than 50 years. This forest, it was destroyed before. Yes. The demons came, we were powerless to stop it, so we hid in the mountains till they left. When they left, Varrok's shaman powers helped to restore the land and return the forest. I see. That explained how the forest didn't seem special. It was not ancient, and it doesn't have history to it. It was no wonder it fell through all our radars. This shaman class is interesting, so I quickly went through my stockpiles. I do have a few of them, but I've not given them to anyone. It's certainly a ritualistic class, with a focus on runes, sacrifices, ceremonies and processions. Exploration of the tainted demon core continued. More tests, and I still struggle. I had to wield both regular mana, and somehow create demon mana to unlock it. It was going nowhere. Arlissa was 5, and she grew quickly. Her physique was at least 20 to 30% bigger than a half-elf of her age, and despite her petite figure, her body was exceptionally strong. This was because her inherited class had transformed into Blessing of a Soul Tree, Advanced, and she unlocked Enhanced Strength and Resilient Body. It's strange, and like Lozan, quite a splitting image of herself. Lofen could finally have the joy of teasing Lozan. You were just like her. We couldn't handle you when you got too strong. She didn't even get started on the dreams yet. Lozan protested. Arlissa made a naughty face and ran away. It was a pain to find her. She didn't unlock any class yet, but she already has the lesser stealth skill. I don't know anyone who has lesser stealth at 5. Lozan complained when she caught her daughter hiding on top of the trees in Freshka. She better not end up stealing. The demon king Rajanaga has been slain. None of the heroes died, and the news of their victory quickly spread. The war of the demon king is over, at least, for this decade. The heroes spent 2 months mopping up the rest of the demons from the eastern continent, and then, they were all set out on their ways. So, Kay returned to the central continent after that. Alone, and she immediately went to Freshka. I need an audience with Eon. She met Jura, and there was a seriousness in her words. No buts. I want to see him, or I will barge into the valley myself. Jura shrugged and nodded. If she won against the Demon King, then there's nothing Jura can do to stop her anymore. Not at his level. We led her to the giant attendant tree again, where she last chose her hero item. Once she was inside, she immediately sat down and demanded, I want tea. Oh well, tea it is. She poured exceptionally large amounts of leaves into the pot and made a thick brew. She cast a spell to cool it down and then quickly downed the cup. Then she yelled, Fook. Thankfully she was indoors. She poured herself another cup of the tea, and downed it. Fuck this shit. Arg, why were we so stupid? May I ask what happened? She took a deep breath. Those fucking gods fuck. Then she seemed to struggle against some kind of phantom pain. She quickly gulped down a cup of tea. You won, right? We didn't have to kill the Demon King. Kay shouted. We should NT have to kill a weak, defenseless Demon King. What? I waited. That sounded absurd. The Demon King killed so many. Surely killing the Demon King is the right thing to. Wait. Is she trying to tell me something else? But the gods. Fuck 'em. They did something to all of us. All 3 of us. We broke the seal that the previous heroes made, and killed the weakened and disabled Demon King. It was pathetic of us. There was no challenge in slaying a weakened Demon King. The more I paid attention, this was a very weird statement from Kay. Like, what do you mean, no challenge? Is that all she cared about? No. She's trying to say something without saying it. She sat and started talking. We should have walked away, rather than let the power in our hands get to our head. The previous heroes were not strong enough to kill the Demon King, but the seal they left behind in their final hours left the Demon King in a perpetually disarmed state, trapped in a magical tornado and magical web, sustained by heroic mana. The Demon King couldn't harm a fly in that state, and yet we walked up to it and killed it. It was pathetic. We should have waited for a proper fight. Why? She continued. I don't fucking know either, but whatever fuck that was, I should have slapped the hell out of my 2 friends and tell them to walk away. But I didn't. The bloodlust won. Fuck the gods. They fucked with my mind so hard. I want a proper fight. She's not like that. She had a headache again. Another cup. Even now, they are fucking with me. No. She's trying to say. What? Think about it. If we only killed all the other demons, and left the Demon King there and waited for it to recover, we could have a proper fight. We could wait 100 years if we need to, so that we can get a proper fight on our hands. 100 years. Oh. She had a mental breakdown, a headache and started crying. Why, Eon? Why? I honestly have no idea. But clever. Are the gods secretly sadists? Are they gods of war, like Ares, that relished in victory? They just want the Demon King dead, is that it? Even if it's defenseless. Don't they care about the struggle? The pleasure and satisfaction of a hard-won battle? Kay sat up. Fuck the gods. Fuck M. And fuck my two brainwashed friends who can't seem the mind control for the life of me. My answer is simple. Eon, I need your help. I believe in the whole wide world right now, only you can help me. Even if I die in the end. Another cup. Next one. I want a proper fight with the Demon King. Then she screamed in pain. And, you're a tree, a magical tree, and as far as I can tell, one of the strongest beings to exist in this world. If I give you all the star mana I have, including my soul if you need it, can you? She couldn't say it, as she dropped down on the floor and struggled. It seemed like her head was in immense pain and she pulled her hair. This was too much for me to take, and if I was a human I'd be panicking. Thankfully, a tree does not panic. She struggled for a good 1 hour, and when she recovered, her eyes were blank, her face deathly pale. She just sat there, and finished her pot of tea. Then she asked for the journal, but I didn't say too much to her. She seemed out of it. She stared at the journal for hours, then finally she added some additional notes into it. She slept in that room that day, then spent the subsequent few weeks, making more star mana weapons. Despite Key's obsession and frustrations about slaying a weakened Demon King, I think she was actually trying to tell me something else, without fully triggering the gods' increasingly overreaching mental influences. By not going all the way and making me think for myself what she couldn't say, did she just figure out how to cheat the gods? Her statement about a weakened, disarmed Demon King opened my mind to a world of possibilities. Seal the Demon King. And probably the heroes too. A seal that could last a century. Maybe more. It's strange to think that this entire problem could be solved in such a simple method. Seal the Demon King. Lock it up. Keep it alive but harmless. Essentially, it would jam a metal wrench into the cog. It's a lot easier to deal with the other demons, without the Demon King. Peace. Sort of. But how? It was a proposal in the right intent, but we are lacking the tools. If this is to be done, it would need a few decades of preparation, and far more levels than what we have now. I gathered my artificial minds. The hero K was almost in the right direction. If we can somehow figure out how to disable both the hero and the Demon King, we can delay the cycle as long as they are both disabled. Failure is unfortunately death, since if either one turns on us, our ability to survive them right now is low. It can be done if the hero is on our side. By our calculations and our present abilities, I think we have an extremely slim chance this would succeed. I recommend significantly more preparation. Patrick commented, and naturally I agreed. This was going against heaven and hell at the same time. To seal a Demon King and also a hero would require a spell far more powerful than anything we have, perhaps at an even higher tier than the Super Hex Bomb. But not impossible, and as the hero implied, a 100 years of peace may be worth it, and it would allow us all the time we need to prepare for the eventual failure of the seal. We are the only ones that can stop this. Only us, with the benefit of our long lives. Perhaps, us and Lilies. Together. Silence from my artificial minds. We would have to convince Lilies to support this endeavor. It is risky, since the heroes will turn on us as our plans involve sealing both sides. We also don't know how far the gods' mind warping abilities can go. Should any of the heroes rebel so publicly, would the gods be able to turn their powers on overdrive, and turn her into their puppet outright? I believe it is certain that the gods won't let me seal the Demon King. Why else did they load up the heroes' minds with so much mental alterations? I believe the gods can make them puppets if they so desire, perhaps at a great cost. If so, Master, conflict with the heroes. Inevitable. I recalled Key's words. When she saw the Demon King, she was swamped with an intense bloodlust. The heroes that supported and worked with us may betray us at that crucial moment, and that could go really bad, very quickly. We would need very specific countermeasures for the heroes then. The war with the temples would take a far nastier turn, if that happened. Still, I wanted to thank Kay. She sparked a thought, a chance, of how this entire conflict could end. A perpetual truce. Maybe it would not succeed in her lifetime, but I have the time to prepare. I'll need all the time to prepare on this path that will make the gods and demons my enemies. Master. Patrick spoke. It may be tempting to consider Keith's suggestion as something achievable, but at the same time, it is possible that you can gain sufficient power to alter the divine arrangement yourself, without a need to directly seal both of the combatants in this conflict. I mean, the heroes and the demons are beings from another world, right? If you could seal this world away, hide the world from their sight, would they still come? Oh, it's like the powers of the ancient vanishing forest, taking it to the next level. A vanishing world, away from the meddling gazes of the demons and the gods. A global shroud generator. Another option. Go all out on the path of divinity, then run away, and take this entire world with it. There are other options that may emerge the higher up I go, as I better understand the powers of the divine. Options. Suddenly I felt like there is a path out of this stupid game. You are right. We must try what we can. C-117 Ballistrix. Year 146. We had a lot of thinking to do, and as we seriously considered it, we discovered there were more options. One of which also has some chance of success, is to break one of the heroes free of the god's control, permanently. The risk was, an independent hero could choose to do anything, including turn on me. Yet, unlike Patrick's idea of achieving godhood and altering the world directly, I had some idea on how to succeed. Already I have some inroads on this, with my teas and drinks, that helped to suppress the effects of the god's influence. I'd have to figure out how to superpower my tea and drinks, to make a real anti-divine influence tea. So, we started doing a lot more research on the tea. What is it about the tea that makes it work? We performed various tests, and to most people, the tea does nothing much. It's just regular tea, for most people, though gradually, we noticed that most of them were healthier after a month's intake of tea, daily. There was a lot more research to do on teas. Second, which was in the same league of difficulty as ascending to full divinity myself, was to create my own hero. If the leveling system allowed me to eventually reach full divinity, I should be able to alter the game either myself, or via my agents. All in, we had a few options. 1. Seal the demon king and heroes. Thus delay the summoning of the next demon king or heroes. The risk with this was that, what if there's no real restriction? What if the gods' heroes and demon king can just arrive anyway, when the time is right? Could the gods force a summoning? 2. Ascend to full divinity. There's significantly unclear what my options are at that point, or whether it allowed me to alter the systems at that point. But, this should be a default option. As long as I am strong, sealing the demon king and heroes will be easier. 3. Break a hero free of God's control. Alternatively, would it be possible to also break a demon king free of their own control? 4. Make my own hero. May not need full divinity if there are worldly ways to reach that level of power. 5. Achieve the ability to kill the demon king and heroes extremely quickly. This would effectively minimize their threat level. Easier said than done, and again, requires myself to probably achieve full divinity. Only a god could kill a demigod, no. In the past 2 years, I used my new gifts on the priests and Valthorns. Since skills could be upgraded, and I had earlier started doing widespread screening of young children, I already had a decently sized dataset of skills. From what, it was a matter of triangulating those who are loyal, have good skills that could be taken a step further, and probably need the skill to make an impact. The first time I used it 2 years ago, I used it on a triologist high priest with the skill, Presence of Calm, which upgraded it to Aura of Tranquility, Strong, simply because he lived in an area where the population was angry and upset at the trade and industrial issues. It would take some time to solve the issue, since matters of industry can't be fixed overnight. They do need a period of time for a new reality to sink it. The aura helped to suppress the dissent, for the changes introduced to take effect. This was a people issue, sometimes. A solution is available, but when the populace is already angry, often the solution is rejected and resisted. It's like trying to help the person in pain. First we must suppress the pain, then we can get to the cause of the pain. If the victim is struggling, it makes life difficult for everyone. Last year, I used the skill gift on Edna's Grand Shield, and it transformed into Suit of Grand Armor, which pretty much made her a walking tank. It was a little bit of a letdown. I thought it would evolve into Triple Grand Shield or something. But oh well, skills don't always work the way I want them to. So, this year, I went to Arlissa instead, and I tried to upgrade the Blessing of a Soul Tree Advanced. It didn't work. Then, I went to another of the patriarchs. He had a skill called Guidance of the Master, which generally helped the priests under his care gain new skills, or speed up their leveling. But, he can only use it on one student at a time, once a month. Again, I hoped it transform into an aura or something, but instead, it just upgraded into Guidance of the Master Advanced, which increased the number of students at any one time to 3 students. Oh well, I think I will try it on one of the blacksmiths or woodworkers next. Maybe he could make something nice. Yeah, actually I should totally make one of the blacksmiths into some kind of super blacksmith. No seal would work without high tier equipment to match, and I do need alternatives that are in the same tier as the hero items. I spent a lot of time thinking about how to use my new leveling skill, and my sticking point was mainly giving 60 levels, and skills may very well be a handicap. From my understanding of the people as a whole, things that are given so easily, especially a level gift, would be wasted on most people who are unable to wrap their head around the sudden surge in levels. That they would lose the ability to estimate their own strength, because they jumped up so fast. It's like a man who just learned to drive, suddenly getting a 1000 bhp sports car. He wouldn't be able to cope with his newfound power and speed. Or how a person who just struck the lottery would soon squander his wealth. It wasn't earned. Unlike the upgraded skills, which are given to people who are already at high levels of power, the sudden surge in levels would be given to young folks with low levels, for my gift of levels to be most effective. There was also the issue of free will and choice. Since my gift dictated that I select the class and levels, what if they don't want this class? After all, this gift is most effective on the young with low levels. It's like I forced someone to study through university for a degree he may not really like, but thought he liked when he was young. I struggled with this power for quite some time, until I was then led back to the wolf with 2 spirits in it. Akrenif was content to live in the forest. And though it was clearly intelligent, it decided to do nothing but stay in its forest. Monsters. I should use my gift on monsters. Monsters after all don't have an issue of class. Monsters can't gain classes, like how I couldn't gain classes. I decided to use my gift on a spider. It gained the levels alright, it transformed into a giant spider. I felt static in my telepathic connections. It was trying to communicate and the spider was extremely confused. Then it went on a rampage. I had to kill it. Damn this gift. It's a trap. I'll need to figure out how to use it properly. Maybe on my artificial souls instead. Ms. Astia. Kay bowed and then sat opposite Astia in her living room. They are neighbors, at least, for now. Apologies for intruding. May I sit here and talk? Astia paused. You don't have to reply. I understand it makes you nervous. But just hear me out. She nodded. Kay had declared herself a resident of the Central Continent, and I agreed. Strangely, most of her decision-making was guided by the journal. I read in the journal that the heroes receive fragments when their friends die in battle, but I want to know whether you get them too. Is it something all of us Earthlings get? Astia nodded. I see. Thankfully I don't have a fragment, at least, not yet. Tell me, what do you remember from Earth? Technologies, things. Do you remember any of the scientific formulas and equations? The older girl shook her head. Kay sighed. Me neither. I curse myself for not studying harder. Who knew all these things would be handy anyway? I wanted to make gunpowder. Like, real gunpowder. Strangely, Astia interjected. Why make gunpowder when there are local powders that do the same thing? Spark powders. Ah, yes. True. There may be native equivalents of our human things. I suppose you don't remember anything about computers, either. Astia was baffled. Computers are incredibly hard to make. The level of precision. Well, like you suggested, there's magic. Magic and precision crafting can be a substitute for clean rooms and industrial manufacturing processes. But, why do you need computers when magic can do the same, and more? Scale. For those without magic, it was a bit strange for Astia to be the advocate of this world's methods. Miss Hero, you might think your way is the right way, and this world might seem primitive. But I don't think you should be introducing the things you want, without thinking it through. Her heartbeat was fast, and even weirder for her to defend this world's way of life. Kay was silent, as she considered Astia's words. Patrick peeked into her mind, and I sensed she was nervous, but yet she did truly feel that this world wasn't that bad. Kay sat and looked out. My friends are going to wage war, eventually. They will think it is right to continue the gods' divine crusade against Eon. They are not doing so because the temples are consumed by the massive reconstruction efforts and funds needed for the Eastern continent. I hoped we could have an advantage. Astia shook her head. She was too nervous to say it, but we could read her mind. Once again, heroes are fools. They don't know anything, but since they have power, and someone tells them of the issues, they'll champion it even if they don't know the truth. Kay had enough and walked away. She then brought her concerns to Jura. The Crusades will come again. This time, there will be two heroes on their side. She wasn't here for the first one, but she seemed to think there will be a second one. Indeed, the heroes are overpowered. If they attempt to attack anyone, it's unlikely they'd lose. If anything, I should force them to a stalemate. What countermeasures do I have against heroes? Could I use poison against them? Did they have poison immunity as default, or only for certain types of heroes? Rather than have a discussion, it was better to just have a serious fight. Kay and Jura have a serious fight deep in a secluded forest. So, Eon is watching. Yes. Jura nodded. If your two friends are coming, we must first know how far we are. As it is, I am one of the highest leveled. Well, he is the highest level. There was no one else at level 100. Everyone else was stuck in their caps at level 80 to 85. I see. Then I shall not hold back. Well, but don't kill me. Jura laughed and prepared his spear. Bamboo floated around his body, forming a wooden structure. Kay levitated. She didn't even need to say a word. Then a massive array of magical guns appeared, and floated around her. The guns started to aim and fired rapidly. Jura immediately used the triple steelwood barriers of Eon, and the guns hammered the barriers, breaking off the wooden barriers chunk by chunk. But here was our first learning point. Kay was using star mana attacks, but it didn't deal exceptional damage against my shields. This meant star mana is super powerful, but it probably had a special perk against demons. It held briefly. The multiple guns did destroy the barrier in after 15 seconds. Jura had to quickly move, weaving through the hail of bullets. It was like watching an expert dance through a bullet storm. Kay was a ship girl, and this was Toho's bullet hell. The shield had a recharge period, so Jura couldn't use it again, but it was time to go on the offense. Return bullet hell with bullet hell, as Jura's bamboo expanded massively, forming multiple flowers. The flowers took damage from the bullets, but some managed to activate and fired shells back at Kay. Yet, the same shells were shot down by Kay's array of guns. She had an array of close-range anti-projectile guns as her defense. Most of Jura's shells didn't even get close, and the few that did, didn't do much damage to the array. What level are you again? Jura ducked as bullets flew over his head. After killing that weak demon king. Level 112. I think my friends barely crossed level 100. And you can keep shooting. Jura managed to create another set of steelwood barriers. They were blown up rather quickly. He tried to use the temporary cover to activate long-range spear attacks, and then launch them. Well, yes. For a few days, in fact. Kay's gun arrays fired like multiple machine guns, and knocked the flying spears out of the way. Shit, it's like cheating. Kay kept firing. She didn't even have to move. Her array of cannons did most of the work for her. Jura, on the other hand, had to keep moving. At this point, I wondered how'd she react to long-range attacks, so I arranged for a spear beetle to shoot a spear at her from afar. The spear was shredded in midair, but only after it reached a certain distance. Jura launched a few ranged skills, one of which created hundreds of wooden spears and flew at her. The guns shot down most of them, but for a change, about 20% hit the array and destroyed a few of them. Kay frowned and activated an ability. The gun was healing. Eons, curse you. Jura cursed. He did his attack again. More spears, and even more spears. The guns kept firing, and then he did a ground-based attack. It exploded right underneath Kay and destroyed one of the arrays. Jura immediately amped up the pace, using his skills to create a massive dust storm. Kay's cannons fired wildly in all directions, but somehow their aim was slightly worse, so more of the spear projectiles got through the defensive guns. Point 2. She can't shoot what she can't see. She has some kind of super sight, but even then it can be blocked or weakened. Powers like mist and hidden forests would be useful in a conflict with the hero. I would also have to consider various passive attacks. Kay's body glowed, and instantly, a massive shell appeared around her, and it fired bullets in all directions like a turning multi-turret. It blew some of the smoke and dust away, and whatever bullets that were her way. That was pretty good, Kay said. She emerged unscathed. But you know, one of the heroes has missiles, kinda like flying super arrows, and the other one has lasers. I mean beam light attacks. Damned bullet hell. They have beam dancers too. Jura still couldn't close in. Kay levitated further up in the sky, and I wondered whether lightning weapons would perform against her. Jura clearly thought of the same thing, as he switched weapons and took out 2 purple spears. He stabbed one into the ground, and then ran. The guns seemed to have a sense of where he was going, and would fire ahead. Jura took a few shots to the leg. Thankfully, bamboo immediately activated thick wooden armor to absorb the shots. He ran again, Kay still levitating towards him. Her guns had never stopped shooting. The ground was battered with mini gunshot explosions, and then he stabbed the other purple spear into the ground. Oh, what is this? Kay wondered. Her guns shot the spears too. Jura immediately activated them, and 2 large lightning bolts arced towards the other spear, and in doing so, zapped Kay and her array. She screamed in pain, and it seemed her arrays stopped shooting for that brief 1 or 2 seconds. Then it resumed shooting. Ouch. Kay said. She was fine, even if the shock did slightly hurt her. That kinda hurt. The spears only have 1 single lightning charge each. Lightning works. I would need more lightning weapons, and lightning arrays. In short, extremely high speed is necessary to counter this generation of heroes. My roots could still be effective if they were levitating not far from the ground, but if they floated too high up, my roots would be useless. Jura stopped. I think we can have a break. I am out of ideas, and my leg hurts. Consider it my loss. Jura was being honest. Kay could keep this up all day, since she doesn't really get tired if she activated her star mana. Her cannons did all the work, whereas Jura, even though he did have immense stamina, has been dodging bullets the entire fight. Oh, okay. And there's 2 of you on the other side. Jura shrugged. I need more levels to even think of keeping up. Yes, lightning would work, and I've activated my artificial souls to gather all sorts of high-speed weapons. Lightning, light beams, death rays, all the sort. I'll need them in large quantities to hurt the heroes. The heroes would be exceptionally tough from the extra stats of their hero class and their blessings, and they would likely to have high natural healing ability too. But they do not have a dedicated healer, and that's a weak point I need to exploit. If I can wear them down over long periods of time, I can still win. How long does it take for your star mana to regenerate? About a day if I sleep. If I keep fighting. I don't know. Kay said. Eon has a plan. Well, they are 2 of them, and we are a continent. I can't feed the heroes too many kills though, they might gain levels. In fact, the tactic would generally involve clearing out wherever they land, and using poison abilities to weaken them. Then only engage them with a large team of high-leveled individuals. I'd never think I'd have to fight a hero. Not in my entire lifetime. Jura said. Certainly, I'd never think there would even be a reason where I'd have to fight against a hero. Well, except if they hunted elves. Kay smirked. So, what does Eon have in mind? For Jura, a lot of experience seeds. C118 Subterfuge 2. Year 147. Jura took 14 experience seeds, a whole bunch of skill seeds until he vomited, and that moved his level to level 114. These experience seeds are so overpowered. Kay protested. Truth was, she was just upset that it didn't work on heroes. It was also my first time using so many of them, and I soon discovered there was a time restriction to the experience seed. Jura couldn't take another more than 15 experience seeds in total. The additional levels gave Jura more power, speed and abilities, but still, against Key's Fortress of Guns, it's still lacking. Kay was still absurdly strong, and even if Jura could get close, the guns would all bombard Jura's armor to smithereens. Today's practice is a little special. Jura explained. He was next to Edna and Ferris, both level 80s. Eon will be joining in our fight. Kay paused. Eon. Yes. Let's go. Instantly, her array appeared, and it seemed like she still had some cards to play, as she activated 2 more arrays of cannons and guns. I wasn't going to let this chance slide, so I've activated Poison Roots, Mist, and Constrict. She levitated out of the way, and her cannon started to shoot the ground beneath her. Jura, Edna and Ferris all spread out and attacked from separate directions, hoping to capitalize on the site-dependent targeting function of the arrays. Still, the guns just carpeted her surroundings. I tried to buy time and space. I created multiple steelwood barriers in many places just so that the 3 have some cover. Then she had large cannons shooting some kind of magical bullet. It blasted the barriers to smithereens in a single shot. Yet, Jura got close. His spear almost grazed her, but it was blocked by an array of cannons, which crumbled from the impact. At that distance, some of the cannons managed to land a point-blank hit on Jura, and Jura was flung to the distance. I had to immediately block with more steelwood barriers. Ouch. Jura was hurt, he bled a little. At the same time, Edna's new armor skill also proved relatively useless against the hero. It lasted a good 12 seconds, and then her armor was entirely destroyed. Vines popped up as she tried to regain her footing from the explosion, some of them managed to entangle her array of magical guns. We pulled in all directions, and increased the number of vines. I kept spawning as many vines as I could, and Keith's guns kept firing. She used fire attacks, bullets, explosions, and this was when I discovered I could spawn as many vines as she could destroy, and more. I had the mana of the entire network of trees at my disposal, and I was going to use all of it if I had to. It was a tug of war. Her cannons kept shooting on the ground around her, destroying the vines, trying to create space between her and the ground beneath her. The vines were exceptional with my energies regenerating them. The vines drained at her mana, but she had so much. It felt like Alexis again, back when she was that demon-possessed fire elemental form. I had beaten Alexis then, but that's because she was a weakened hero with demonic energy possessing her. Kay struggled and then her body glowed. Then she emitted an explosion that torched all the vines. At that moment, her array of guns vanished. Edna and Ferris were a distance away, they were horribly outmatched by her cannons and guns. Their armor didn't last. Jura too was nursing his wounds in the distance. I had more vines appear. Kay took a deep breath and summoned another array of guns. She had different types of bullets, and the ground was covered in exposed roots, my roots. She fired more bullets at them. But somehow, regenerating roots and vines were proving to be quite a bad matchup for a gunner like her. This constant resistance went on for a good 2 hours, and then she was slowly getting tired. I didn't want to push her further, and I still think she has a lot more to go. Let's stop. I mentally signaled, and Kay relaxed. What? You didn't tell us you're in the central continent. Alvin and Hans were on the other side of the magical call. I did, but somehow both of you seemed to have just ignored it. Kay frowned. Why? She was feigning ignorance. Never mind. Then help us sabotage the central continent's defenses. The temples want to launch a second crusade soon, this time with us as the main force. Why? Kay frowned. She already knew this much. Back when they were on the eastern continent, she already knew of the temple's plan for a second crusade after the war. The plan was only foiled when the first batch of heroes died. Because the cursed tree is actually an evil spawn of the demons. Think about it, how else did it survive the demonic corruption for so long? It must be actually a clever ploy by the demons to create a tree that appears to be on our side. The gods have decreed that a war must be waged against it. Before Kay could respond, I mentally whispered. Play along. If we want to win, it may be a good idea to just let them think you're on their side. Kay just acted. Is the demon tree aware of your presence? The other two heroes said. Yes. Beware of the things it tells you. The temple said the tree has somehow managed to convince and cheat past heroes as well. Really? They suspect the tree may have some mind-controlling abilities, psychotic substances and drugs, since it managed to convince the heroes to part with their hero items last time. Don't take things from the tree. Be careful of what you eat and drink. Kay paused. You mean it's been drugging me? Yeah, maybe. You have to be careful, Kay. It's a very crafty tree. It managed to defeat the First Crusade. It must be quite crafty. Why don't you escape and rejoin us back in the southern continent? The three of us can launch the crusade together. Has it gotten to you? That evil tree. I won't forgive them. I mean, I met someone who's probably from Earth. Oh no. The tree managed to catch someone else. Can you free him too? Her. Yeah, her. Can you free her? Both of you. Can you escape? I am sure the temples will be happy to host all of you. They've been treating us really well. Kay rolled her eyes. You mean girls, right? Both Alvin and Hans blushed. It seemed that the two heroes are serviced by a harem of gorgeous temple priestesses. I knew it. I am sure they have handsome good-looking boys too. Alvin responded. Come back here, Kay. I'll think about it. Don't think. That tree must be sowing doubt in your mind. Be careful of what you think, Kay. I wonder what the hell were the temples feeding the heroes. But then, maybe the gods have some kind of godly surveillance ability, so it's not a surprise if it could see what kind of powers I have, though I suspect my later domain-protected powers remain a secret. Kay found it hard to play along as it went on. Okay. I'll need to hide. Before he finds me. Good. See you. Alright. The connection cut off, and Kay stood. She asked. Do you have mind control powers, Eon? No. Well, Patrick's not exactly mind control. It's influence and mind reading. Do you have psychotic drugs? Yes. If a hero wants to investigate, I am not surprised if it can find the truth. So it was better to just be upfront about it. I have various kinds of psychedelic substances, generated by my plants and organs. I see. Kay walked away. She spent a few weeks fighting demonic hybrids in the Rotted Lands. I spoke to Lausanne about the hero's plan for the Crusades. I didn't realize the two of them were so deeply influenced by the temple's demagoguery. When I met them, they seemed ordinary. It's been many years since the last hero summoning, and the temples are still formally at war with us. Jura opined. The rhetoric and propaganda is in full swing. Surely you've seen the tales that the people spin about us. The propaganda divided the world. Those on the central continent think they are so absurd, to the point that rather than improve the locals' view of the temples, it merely made them look ridiculous. In fact, the fervor and passion of the locals to defend the central continent increased every time some ridiculous propaganda got circulated. It's even a point of comedy. On the other continents, they seem to believe the propaganda. It wasn't a stretch for them to believe it, somehow. The only ones that react nonchalantly to the propaganda are the border nations. The island nations that trade with us, and the kingdoms that secretly made trade arrangements. For them, the propaganda, on either side, seemed like just a side note. Money, resources were more important. The Valthorns won't be much help against the heroes. Jura admitted. Unless you make more of those limit-breaking things. And even me at level 114 now. You'll need to reach at least level 150 to hold your own against them. It's a simple concept, that the system recognizes level 150 as the tier of champions. Thus, level 150 must be like an entry-level hero. If they also unlock their domain powers at that point, I could see them gaining significant strength at that level, which would allow them to catch up to the heroes. Wow. Jura just said. Level 150 seems so crazy. Lausanne added. Seriously, I didn't know Eon had the ability to break level caps. When did that happen? Some time ago. Still, it's insufficient. In our spar with K, we lost badly. But, Eon suggested the implementation of multiple high-speed attacks would be sufficient to weaken the hero. But they also have incredibly high base defense and stats, so it also need to pack a bit of a punch. Crystal bombs then. We charge up hundreds, or thousands of spell matrices, and plant them as mines. Detonate them when the heroes get near. Lausanne suggested. That's a good idea. We could try that out. We gathered that the heroes will approach from the sea, and chances are they will come with a fleet of ships. The temples will give full backing and won't half-ass this crusade, with the heroes in the lead. It'll be a sizable force, a coalition from all the continents. The temples will be eager to demonstrate their power, and redeem themselves from their prior loss. In short, a lot of bloodshed. That said, if I couldn't nuke the Demon King, I could nuke the heroes. I think that has a far higher chance of success, but I think I would make K an enemy. As it is, the chances of success for me, K and my other high-leveled talents against these two heroes are quite good. Almost 50-50. If I could trap them properly, and K doesn't defect, we have a very good chance of winning. Then let's get to it. We should start preparing what we need for the traps. All the crystal matrices we can make. This required better enchanters and crafters, and so, I used my class fusion abilities to create a few high enchanters and master crystal workers. They would work on the base of the crystals to store our lightning bombs, and then I would add some of my own runic carvings to enhance it further. Production of these crystal bombs required rare materials, and also the skills of my workers, so even after giving out the new classes, we were making 30 to 50 crystals a month. Hardly enough to mine the shores, or prepare a weapon. The continent was in full war preparations mode, and at the same time, I've recalled Hyperion back. I needed to outfit him for a different sort of battle now, no longer anti-air, but anti-hero. He needed all the high-speed weapons I could make, and the change in the loadout had to reflect that. The heroes were all dedicated anti-air specialists, but from what I've seen with K, their detection abilities and other ancillary abilities such as defense, healing skills are relatively strong, but not insanely overpowered. It's still possible to capitalize of these lagging abilities, and pretty much turn them into weaknesses. Also, there's only 2 of them, and Key's movement speed is just slightly faster than Jura at his top speed, so these 2 heroes would be at a similar pace. That meant, their invasion fleet will not be as well protected as they think. If we can hold the 2 heroes off and keep them occupied, the rest of our forces could cut off their supply lines and force them to a retreat. A continent turned into a machine readying itself for war. Lord Kraviak. An assistant bowed to the treefolk lord. This way. He nodded and was led to a fancy meeting room. A few others were waiting. The lords were gathered for a meeting in one of Freshka's largest mansions, organized by the trade lord. My humblest apologies to my esteemed peers. Kraviak said. Pardon my time, tree folks do not move very quickly. No matter. Come. The dwarven trade lord nodded. There were 10 lords in that room, all graduates of the FTC. Come. The Second Crusades will be a storm that will soon sweep our lands. We, the noble class, have much to deliberate. Go on. I have been in contact with a few kingdoms on the other continents. There was a gasp. The heroes will lead the charge, and they say the female hero in our midst will turn against us. Whispers in the small crowd. It does make sense that a hero summoned by the other gods would turn against us. Indeed, a worrying thing. Eon may not be able to hold against 3 heroes. Few things in our known history have managed to hold the heroes back. You speak like you have a proposal, dwarf. A centaur lord immediately cut in. Let's hear it. Indeed. We must decide whether we should defect. Kraviak slammed the table. I oppose that wholeheartedly. Or pretend that we are defecting. It would be wise to play along and hedge our bets. The dwarf said. If K, the hero really is defecting, I will make contact and suggest that we switch along with her. Kraviak again slammed the table. Enough. I will have no part of this nonsense. Do you all have no shame to even consider it? We were given power by Eon, and now we turn against him. The dwarf immediately retorted, we earned our classes by performing as the best in our cohort. Eon has done much for us, but our class is our own, and we must plan for the inevitable. Our survival must matter, and I would rather burn than defect against my patron. The dwarf took a deep breath. Calm, Kraviak. We are peers in this room, so please, hear me out. Eon very well knows that our present loyalties are because of the role his divine plays. If he falls, the glue that holds this entire continent collapses together. He would not begrudge us if we plan for that inevitability. Again, I would rather burn. I would love for Eon to win, Kraviak. But we are dealing with heroes. Heroes have reshaped the political landscape of the world many times already. Remember, elven heroes subordinated tree spirits too. Eon's superiority in our continent is dependent on his ability to withstand the hero's pressure. He would stand better with us on his side. The dwarf sighed, and the discussion was heated. One of the later graduates spoke. I suggest we keep our options open at this point. We do not know whether Eon will lose or not. Dwarf, you may be a master of trade, but it is my view this is a trade you should not make. Kraviak warned. The dwarf could only sigh. If it is only so easy, should the tree fall, are we going to be crushed under it, or step aside? What is loyalty if it is death to all we care for? There are times you should have conviction in your positions, not constantly weigh the shifting odds. What if? The dwarf retorted. Another lord spoke up. It is best whatever we discuss never leave this room. The Valthorns will have our heads if they know we even considered defection. I will keep my silence, but I fear it may be too late. Eon's ears are everywhere. Pray that he does not mete out preemptive punishment. The dwarf's eyes widened. You mean? Yes. I chose to do nothing. The entire continent has always wondered what would happen if I were to suddenly die or disappear. Every king, every lord worth their salt have been planning for that possibility, and so far, all I needed to do was to send a nice warning letter if they take a step too far. I even let them make contact. It wasn't a problem for them to communicate with those on the other side. Who knows, the defection may even go the other way. From what I could see, the dwarf's concerns are entirely from fear. Fear of my eventual destruction. It is valid, and so long as he does not participate in plots against me, or reveal sensitive info, I would grant them some leeway. If I were to execute everyone for even having a thought of betrayal, I would soon slaughter everyone. Everyone has thoughts of change. I can accept reasonable dissent and discussion. Patrick, just keep an eye on them. Certainly, Master. But we will always be watching. C-119 Infiltration. Year 147, end of year. The Second Crusades brewed in the distant horizon. 1,000 ships set sail from all the continents, but most of them would not make land, only the force led by the hero will first make landfall. At least, that's the plan we heard. What is our victory condition? I asked Kay this question as the war preparations went on. Are you willing to kill your friends? I wanted to be sure she was on the same side, and what her line in the sand was. She shook at the word, kill. I am not sure. I thought of defeating them, and they'll go away. Now she lacks the conviction. I'll keep defeating them. There's 2 of them and 1 of you. And then they will come back again. Stronger. And bigger. Realistically speaking, if we want to win, no, for this to be a victory, the 2 of them must die. The crusades will not stop if the heroes live. The temples will not allow the heroes to retreat. Can we capture them instead? Kay said. I want them to see the journals. That's the minimum I want to try. Maybe we can change their mind. This was insane. The journals can't leave the room. The heroes enchanted it so that it's magically bound to that tree. Then we capture them, and led them here. What you want to do will put us in tremendous danger. Defeating the heroes is hard enough. Capturing these star mana-powered superweapons. She thought for a moment, and then said. Not if I play my part properly. I'll need your help. K. Alvin, Hans. I got a plan, but I need both of you to come, preferably just the 2 of you. The 2 heroes paused. I think I can sneak both of you to Eon directly. No need for any large crusading party. If we defeat Eon first, together, the continent will fold anyway. What do you think? The army can come afterwards, and it'll be a resounding victory for them. It smells like a trap, K. I know, but we're heroes. There's 2 of you, and 1 of me, and the enemy's just a tree. Kay said. What do you think? It's the best way to save the cursed continent without spilling too much blood. So much was already sacrificed in the earlier crusades. They thought for some time. We'll have to discuss this with the high command of the Crusaders. Yes, do so. But please, consider my suggestion. A small strike team will be super effective. It'll also lead you to the tree's stockpile of hero items. Let's do it. Hans and Alvin reached out a week later. It was predictable, since the temples were not really willing to risk life and limb for victory. But if the temple was more than willing to let the heroes risk it all, it's really par for the course. They've done it with the Demon Kings, and they will do it again with me. Alright, here's the plan. Kay explained over their magical concall. Hans and Alvin arrived in a small high-speed ship. Their ship stopped in a quiet, mostly secluded bay. There was no ship in that area. The 2 of them landed with a small team of soldiers from the temples. The soldiers would stay back and keep watch. We're here. I had already emptied the targeted location once the plan was set in motion. Rather lax defenses, not what we were expecting. I had a feel of their power. I had tree sensors in the area, and the bay was filled with trees. They were weaker than Kay for sure. Kay had the benefit of power leveling in the Rotted Lands, and so she scored more kills during the Demon King battles. With all the trees here, maybe he already knows we are coming. Hans said. But I don't sense any magic. Of course they can't. Their detection abilities are just above average. Hello. Kay said. She appeared from behind a coconut tree. Finally, I get to see you 2 again. Alvin immediately ran over. Are you alright, Kay? Did the tree torture you or anything? Kay smiled. Look at me. Alvin paused. Just to be sure, the temples gave me this. He took out some kind of water, and he splashed it on Kay. Kay immediately shouted. What the hell? It's holy water, the priest said. It'll wash off any mind control and demonic influence. Kay frowned. As if such things would work on me. We never know. The tree did manage to brainwash an entire continent to rebel against the 4 temples. Alvin gave Kay a hug. Glad to see you again. Yeah, come. Kay took out a bag with a change of clothes. They were military uniforms of the Valtrian Order. I stole some military outfits of the Defense Force. Remember, let me do the talking. The 3 heroes were soon at a military outpost in the far south. It was a small outpost, but there was a beetle truck stop here. Walk normally like you belong. Think spy movies. Kay said. The 2 boys straightened their backs. Walk behind me. Good evening, Lady Kay. A soldier saluted as the 3 walked into the outpost. Kay nodded. She was also in a military uniform, but her uniform was one of a higher status, similar to those of the Valthorn's upgraded classers. The 2 walked behind her. When's the next beetle arriving? To where, milady? The soldier asked. Freshka. In 2 hours. Got it. Thanks. Kay said and she turned. We have some time, let's eat. She led them to a canteen in the outpost. There was a very small force in that outpost, and most of them left after seeing them. Why do they seem to be afraid of you? Hans asked once there was no one else. Because I outrank them. I am an honorary Valthorn, which makes me part of the elite force. Alvin nodded. It's clever that you so easily snuck into Kay immediately lunged forward, her hand covered his mouth. Don't say it. Kay looked stern. The boys both nodded. This was an espionage. One that I am watching through all the trees everywhere. Even Kay doesn't know I could see so much. What are we waiting for? Beetle carriages. They're kinda like long-range buses that travel from selected outposts to various destinations throughout the continent. The two boys nodded, impressed. Wow. They're advanced in this aspect. Yes. Now, both of you are my assigned escorts, here's your fake name tags. And papers. Kay took out a stack of papers with tags and various badges. She pinned it on them. Refer to me as Lady K. If you see someone with the same uniform as me, refer to them as a superior rank. If you don't know their name, just say yes sir. Got it. Yes. Why didn't you tell us all this earlier? I just didn't remember that I needed all this then. Kay said frankly. Now, come. The convoys should be here soon. I'll get an exclusive one for us. Year 148. How long will this journey take? Hans asked a week into the journey. 5 weeks. Usually it takes only 2, but the express beetles are on other duties, and it's winter, so the travel speed of the beetles are slower. They're more sluggish during this time. This beetle will stop in a few cities along the way, maybe we can try to catch an express beetle. This path also has less traffic. They were wrapped in thick winter jackets supplied by the Valtrian order. The south was usually warmer, but the path they chose took them through to the highlands. The beetles stopped at one of the mountain snow-covered towns. These were the winter-adapted beetles, product of my earlier research to counter the effects of cold. Still, they had to travel close to the subsidiary trees. The mountain town also had a small group of soldiers. Here, it was a mix of militia and Valthorns. The local town maintained a militia to deal with various monsters that spawn from the snowlands. Let's take a break. I have to submit some reports to the local Valthorns, and we'll need to do some monster extermination missions here. Why? To keep up our cover, stupid. Kay said. They hunted some mountain ice goats and frost lizards for 2 days, and then resumed their journey. Alright. This beetle is going to take us to Fortress Archeod. It's one of the larger southern fortresses, and a key staging ground of the defense force. I suggest both of you memorize this place well for your later battles. We will need the local commander, so, again, let me do the talking. Throughout the central continent, we had many staging grounds and fortresses. Fortress Archeod is one such fort. It had 3 giant attendant trees, and tons of wooden walls and defenses around it. Holy cow. They both said. It was their first time seeing the giant trees. Eon is larger. So shut it. Kay said, as the beetle approached the gates. A group of 6 well-dressed soldiers approached them. The beetle also lowered its body. Papers please. Kay quickly flashed her badge and handed over her papers. She looked at the 2 behind him. She coughed. Papers. The 2 quickly scrambled to find their documents and presented them to the soldiers. All right, you can pass. The beetle stopped right after the wooden gates. Impressive, right? Kay smiled. These are all magically reinforced wood, and hyper-resistant to fire, contrary to common belief. Resistant to fire. Both Hans and Alvin responded. Yes. Strange but true. Come. As a senior Valthorn I must meet the commander. Both of you will come with me. It's the first time you'll meet a Valthorn classer, and the first time in a giant tree. The fortress commander's office was high up in the giant attendant tree, and getting there meant walking in the spiral stairs or taking one of the wooden pulleys. Shit, this place is straight out of a fantasy. Kay glared at Hans. Oops. Sorry milady. The commander's office was a large room with open windows. Greetings Commander Lovies. Kay said. Ah. Lady Kay. Welcome to Fortress Archeod again. How long will you stay this time? Just a day or 2. I'll need to head off to Freshka soon. Eon summoned. I see. Lovies instantly leapt and stopped right in front of Hans and Alvin. They both gulped. Lovies recently capped out at level 85 as a Spearmaster. Strange. Your 2 escorts. They smell funny. Only a select few were privy to the plan. Lovies was genuinely suspicious of Hans and Alvin. The 2 heroes froze. They were easily stronger than Lovies, but their mental state was weak. I wonder whether it's because they got their levels too quickly. It's the sea. I believe they were stationed on the outer trade islands. Kay responded calmly. I see. Both of you better get a shower. It's improper for escorts to make your lady defend you. Lovies said. Kay chuckled. I'll see to it. If we may. Yes. Go ahead. Use our facilities as you please, Lady Kay. Who was that again? Hans asked. He clearly didn't pay any attention when Kay explained earlier. To heroes, most people are just NPCs. Not worth remembering. Lovies. Spearmaster. I believe she's level 85. Shit. Hans was impressed, even though he was clearly stronger. I could beat her, but she has a presence. Kay smirked. She's not the only one. No wonder the First Crusade lost. The number of people at that level. I think the kingdoms have only a few. After another 3 weeks of traveling, they entered the domain of the Freshlands. On your left, in the distance, is what remains of the Rotted Lands. Carved up by Eon's magical energies. Kay said. The temples said Eon made a deal with the demons. Alvin said. Well, then the ground we are now on is all demon then. Kay explained. There will be more demonic hybrids, and they are attracted to creatures that emit star mana like us, so be prepared for more fighting. So it's true. Demonic hybrids. Eon made a deal with the demons, and that's why we have these cursed hybrids. The gods would never create such twisted monsters. Kay paused. As they traveled closer, they were attacked by a few demonic hybrids. They also saw beetles emerging from the trees to fight them. Then, they reached the first walls of Freshka. Over the decades I've added layer after layer of defenses. There was a giant attendant tree that functioned as the centerpiece of the walls and gates. Again, Valthorn's and Valtrian Order soldiers quickly did the usual ID checks, both the heroes getting used to the investigations. Now we have the centerpiece of Eon's propaganda machine. Kay said, half joking. We're passing by the educational institutes. They passed by the Freshlands Treatiary College and the School of Triology. The Valthorn Academy was on the other side. Should we blow them up now, especially that School of Triology? Alvin said. They are a cult. This entire setup is a cult. Kay paused. No. People don't need to die for this. Remember, the goal is Eon. The two of them nodded okay. Come. Kay led them into the room of where all the hero items were kept. We had intentionally set it up such that it looked like the entire tree was just a simple building. There were a few hero items on the table. It's a risk if they activated them, but I had to trust Kay at this point. The journal was there too, on the table. It was closed, though. So, this is it. There should be more, Kay said. Where did it go? The two boys started searching, and then Hans walked over to the journal. He briefly opened it. The star mana in the journal resonated with his own. Then he froze. Alvin immediately ran over and touched Hans. Hans, you alright? No, Hans said. The journal. Alvin then went and looked at the journal, its pages open, magical words floating everywhere. Habitually he reached out and touched the journal's sides, and then he froze. The journal glowed. I still didn't know what was in the journals, and why it evoked such a strong emotion. Both of them were stunned. The journal glowed, and their own bodies seemed to resonate with it. They didn't move for a few hours. Kay just shrugged, sat down and started brewing some tea. When they finally broke out of the stupor, they both turned to face Kay. You trapped us. Kay smiled. Yes. You sly woman. Alvin said. You wanted us to see this. Yes. It is the only way we can stop being pawns of greater powers. They froze. What now? You've just shown everything we've known to be lies. They had a headache. Kay offered them tea. I don't know. But I wanted to show you that this whole crusade is pointless. Fighting you on the battlefield wouldn't have proved anything, even if we win. I don't want to fight you, and we should be fighting with Eon. I don't want Eon to fight with the temples either, as disgusting as the temples are. Our true enemies are not each other. Then, we play arbiters of peace. Hans said. The gods want us to be in perpetual conflict. Us, the heroes and the demons are agents of that intention. We trigger more fights, more wars. Maybe this whole world is just a farm and we are the means of harvesting something. How did the previous heroes know? I don't know, but they seem to have managed to resist the gods' influence to a greater degree than us. Either they found a way, or we're just too weak. Then, I want us to take a time out. There's really no reason for more bloodshed. We can break the cycle, even if the gods want us to play our part in this. We failed with the Demon King, but we can stop this one. You truly think sparing Eon is the right decision? Not fighting him. We've committed too much, and an army will soon be on their way. The other boy continued. A timeout. Please. Let's just pretend each other doesn't exist. Why must we fight? When heroes fight, so many people die pointlessly. I've seen the good things the temples do. The temples are not bad, either. I want just switch sides. Alvin repeated. I am not asking the two of you to be friends with Eon. But see the value of his presence in the world, even if he made a contract with the demons, which, by the way, I don't think so. Alvin and Hans both just sat there. I need more time. I can't process this. Not yet. I'll be here. I'll go get food. Please, don't do anything stupid. We really don't need to fight anyone. Well, maybe just the demons. Kay returned later with food. Also, there's more to the journals. I don't know how the previous heroes did it, but they've somehow copied a large chunk of their mind and memories into that magical journal. I've added my own to it too. Alvin and Hans glared at Kay for a moment, and then they sighed. They uploaded their minds into a book. Great. This is next level crazy. It's been crazy since we got here, boys. That was how two heroes ended up camping in my tree of hero items for a few days. The Crusades, thankfully, didn't move on. The temples were smart to suspend further action once they discovered the heroes had gone silent. Some time later, their bloodlust seemed significantly more subdued. I think we should head back. Alvin and Hans said. We won't be friends with Eon, but we agree. We don't need to fight. It is pointless, as much as the temples want to convince us otherwise. Kay happily nodded. It's fine. I know you're too invested in the temple's hierarchy by now. But all we want is to stop the outright fighting. The world doesn't need more deaths. We had enough in the Eastern continent. Yes, we can agree on that. The two heroes agreed, though they have not truly switched over to my side. Kay escorted them off. So, it's over. I asked Kay as their ship sailed away. I think they won't attack us, at least. The temples might still continue the crusade, but it'll just be the temple's own forces. Then they won't. Alvin and Hans returned to the southern continent and soon advocated a focus on healing and restoration, rather than a second crusade. The eastern continent still needed a lot of healing, and that was the angle they took. Jura continued to fear for a large crusade, and personally, I was just happy I didn't have to fight heroes. But I am now super interested in what's in that magical journal. What did Gerard, Harris and Mireille write in there? So, all our military work, what do? We can slow it down, and prepare for the next Demon King. Take a break, you all deserve a bit of it. This year, I significantly dialed down the war efforts. Still, I kept those things, the anti-hero countermeasures, in storage. I may still need it someday. Kay managed to defuse the situation with the journal, and in a way, it was very lucky that it worked out the way it did. Though I know that someday, I will have to fight a hero for real, I am happy that this second crusade ended before it even started. For once, a war fought and won with cunning, instead of blood. In a way, Kay really did something heroic. C-120 fractures. Year 148 continued. Thank Eons, that went well. Edna breathed a huge sigh of relief. The two heroes, Alvin and Hans, returned to the south. On the very day the three heroes came to Freshka, we summoned quite a few of the high-leveled Valthorns for an emergency preparation. The valley itself was loaded with many traps and magical weapons, ready to go off if the encounter in the tree of hero items did not go well. Me too, personally relieved that for once, we avoided a battle. That is a rarity in this world, where fighting often is the way to settle large disputes. I didn't know they were the heroes. Lovis complained, and her fellow Valthorns sympathized. Almost all of them were informed only when they came into the many holding areas prepared around the valley. In hindsight, it's obvious. Edna laughed in relief. Most of us are just going to serve as meat shields for Ian's magical weapons. I had multiple hero items prepared, and was prepared to even detonate the entire valley around me to secure a victory. In Patrick's simulation, we would likely have deaths of about half of Freshka, and almost all of the high-leveled Valthorns dead, most of it collateral damage, in a battle between us and the two heroes. It wasn't going to be pretty, and I wasn't sure if the two heroes have any trump cards. When Patrick had included a 30 to 50% increase in their damage and power, and I'd probably lose my main trunk, Freshka and all the colleges a smoldering ruin. As long as my heart is hidden somewhere deep below, I think I could still rebuild. But if they have some kind of detection ability, I am dead. I would need more levels. The goal of breaking this cycle demands it. News from the temples. The refusal of heroes to wage a second crusade seemed to set off a chain of internal conflicts, and rather than let the populace question whether the gods truly are in control of the heroes, the gods seemed to have decided on a second divine message. Full-scale war is prohibited, but the central continent and all that is associated with Eon is to be a pariah, persona non grata. Essentially, a return to the status quo. The central continent remains cursed, even with 2 heroes on their side. I was rather amused that the gods would so quickly intervene and issue a second divine message. Kay also returned to Freshka after the incident. Good job. I spoke to her after she sent the 2 off. It went pretty much the way you planned it to. The book only managed to convince them to suspend conflicts. Too bad they weren't willing to add their own to it. Now that issue is temporarily fixed, what's next? The next Demon King, of course. It's getting boring, honestly. Come on, how many Demon Kings do we have to go through? That's the nature of maintenance, it's all boring and no one ever thanks you, but when something fucks up then everyone is out to get you. After the announcement, the story from the temples pivoted massively. The temples now claim that Eon is a fallen archangel of the gods, that have been punished for going astray and thus turned into a tree. That Eon is still a servant of the gods that has lost its way, so the temples now preach that the cursed continent are people who need salvation and clarity, that Eon is one in need of guidance. One of the spymasters explained the news from the continents. It was a massive WTF moment. The crusade was the temple's attempt of guiding Eon back to the proper path, but the gods have now found mercy and decided to let time bring Eon back into their fold. Who writes this sort of propaganda for the temples? And the populace just buy into this sort of wonky reasoning so easily. Seriously. So, Eon, other than the cursed and heretic, is also now the fallen archangel of gods, the wayward one, the deceived and the deceiver. The heroes must brave a journey to the cursed land to reclaim the weapons of gods, left in the fallen archangel's hands. Wow. If I had a jaw, it would be wide open now. Seriously, the temple's propaganda machine is quite impressive. So, the cursed continent is also the lost continent. Lost, because our people have fallen astray from the light of the gods, Gaia, Eva, Hua and Nera. The heroes, in their mercy, have convinced the gods that it is unnecessary to slay the wayward ones on the central continent, and instead, the heroes will devote their efforts in convincing and guiding the lost, back from the brink. They somehow managed to twist the failed Second Crusade into a draw. Eon would denounce the declaration and claim that they are not followers of the gods, but it is a lie. If I even come out to say it is wrong, it'll just play into their claim that I am lost. Still, I had to do it. I summoned my patriarchs and matriarchs, and made them start a series of counter-propaganda sermons. But war with the other temples is indeed pointless. The nobles that contacted the outsiders were surprised by how quickly the 4 temples folded, and the crusades dead before they even landed. The fact that the 2 heroes actually came into Freshka and then into the valley is a secret unknown to most, only those alerted to the emergency combat preparations. The lords were clearly smart enough to deny such a conversation of shifting sides ever happened. It wasn't in their interest, now that the winds have shifted, to admit so. I decided to let it go. There's just far too many people planning for contingencies anyway, they would not be the first, nor the last. Arlissa hid in a small tree in the forests, on the outskirts of Freshka. She was now almost 8, and yet she looked like a 15-year-old. As a half-elf, maybe it was the human side of her. Don't tell mama where I am. She mentally whispered to me, her lesser stealth upgraded into 2 skills, forest blending and stealth. She was dodging her sparring lessons again. Lozan needed to work to find her. Why do you dislike sparring anyway? She was good at it. Arlissa pouted. I like hiding more. Found you. Lozan smirked as she appeared next to her in a quick jump. She gave her daughter a tap on the head. Ouch. Now back to class. Don't wanna. Why not? I just don't wanna. Arlissa protested. Let me play. I don't recall being so rebellious at your age, young lady. Lozan frowned. You gotta go for classes. Arlissa didn't care. She just shouted and protested. She preferred to be playing hide and seek with her mom. Year 149. It's been 28 years since I last used a soul-strengthening seed, and also, I've got a few ginsengs of sufficient maturity. This time, I have a few 25-year-old ginsengs. I've planted them around Freshka, a few near the ley lines, and some in the volcano. Surrounded by a huge army of beetles. Lozan, do you want it? What is this? Something to break your level limit. She thought for a while, and then shook her head. As with the special class, I believe there are others more suited for it. So, I went for another. Edna, you've served me for the past 29 years as my first Grand Knight, and it is time for me to grant you a blessing like that of Jura. With this, you will be able to exceed your current level limit, and take on responsibilities far greater than what you have now. She nodded, and as with Jura so many decades ago, she had a whole night of pain and aches. The next day, she looked healthier, her soul glowing just like Jura's. I could tell she gained a few levels, just like Jura, overflow levels from all her accumulated experience. So we were right, Jura really received a gift from you. Edna marveled at her body. Breaking this limit seemed to unlock more vitality in them, and that reflected in their physical strength, all increased by a bit. I wondered whether heroes are therefore different in this key aspect, that they are born with far greater vitality than anyone else, since the concept of a level limit did not even occur to them. Was it not obvious? No. Jura did not explain, and we have been wondering for quite some time. Edna paused, and knelt before the tree of prayer. She thought for a while, and then she just quietly prayed. After Edna, next was Ferris. I had some concerns of making a druid stronger, mainly fear that the power he gained would allow him to gain control over me. Lately, I've begun to gain some confidence in my own abilities, and domain as a far stronger shield for all these subtle manipulations and controls than I expected. So, I've dabbled with the idea of making Ferris stronger. I offered him the same blessing, and he too took it. Just like Edna and Jura, he had a day of pain and aches, and the next day he emerged with an extra 2 levels. Unfortunately, their classes did not change. I believe both your classes will change when you hit level 100. Jura explained to the two. Just as mine did. It is a great privilege and honor, and also a responsibility. More than ever, your lives are now intertwined with Eon's will. Eon's will. You have spoken and discussed with Eon many times, but this choice reflects that he too has greater plans for both of you. What sort of plans? It was then I immediately jumped in. These plans are not one for the outside world, or for the temples. Not even your fellow Valthorns, unless they too receive this same blessing. The two gulped. I aim to end the cycle of demons and heroes. To do so, I must have champions at my side. Jura shrugged. I had privately discussed this with him earlier. Over the next few decades, or perhaps centuries, but it will be so. My champions will be there to lay the foundations, and to do what I cannot do. It is a position of tremendous trust and responsibility. Ferris seemed lightheaded for a moment. End the cycle. Edna had a serious, contemplative look on her face. Think about it. Do you think the other gods seriously want to end this cycle, or they are just content with this present status of constantly fighting with the demons? They thought about it for a long while. Edna was first to say. What do I do? Not immediately. It is important that you gain strength, and secondly, watch your mind. The other gods have attempted to attack my mind multiple times, and I will attempt to aid you, to resist those powers. Every day, you shall have at least a cup of herbal tea, and if you ever feel like you have a mental attack or feel lightheaded, you must let me know, I will attempt to support your mind. It is one of the things we must do, to gain the powers to resist mental attacks. Patrick's able to use his mental attack powers to also provide some limited shielding, but only in the Valley of Freshka. Your goal is to reach level 150. At level 150 you unlock the first of the domain powers, and enter the realm of true champions. Only then, we can dream of catching up to the heroes. For me, even at level 170, fighting a level 110 plus hero like K is still a 50-50 thing. If K had a more ground-focused ability, or was a more martial-oriented hero, she would have won against me easily. Level 150 is nothing more than a ticket to be in the race, with a huge advantage for the heroes. I think they would need to be level 170 or 180 to fight a level 110 hero. Or maybe, the domain choices they have then would be more combat-oriented. 150. They both gasp. It was twice their current level. I will help you. Some experience seeds will get you closer to that goal, but after this, the three of you must fight many strong foes by yourselves. Only then you will gain the experience needed to level up. I believe I'll have to give out fragments too, once I get past 100 hero fragments. The experience support and anti-demonic buffs would be useful. It is a huge task, one we will need to achieve over the decades. It is alright if we miss the next Demon King, or the one after. All we need is one successful shot, and we can end this madness for good. Too many lives lost over the millennia to this pointless conflict. They all nodded. I've always lived thinking this Demon King thing was just a regular event, where even kings or heroes can't stop it. To be part of an attempt like that, I must say, fills me with a purpose I cannot describe. Edna said, it is a worthy goal. Speak to no one else of the goal. The other gods are watching, and they will attempt to use their powers to influence you. Again, another set of nods. If anyone asks, the goal is to gain power. For now, you are dismissed. Ferris didn't return home. He summoned a wolf and went for a long trek through the high mountains. The knowledge seemed to weigh on him a lot more than Edna. I hope they can take it. I spoke to Jura privately. They had to know. Just like me. I had always suspected you have a larger goal, but I was not certain of the extent of how large it would be. Yeah, this is a conflict far bigger than any one of us. They must know. This is a path that may take us in open conflict with the other gods and heroes. Jura nodded. Of the Valthorns, they are most ready. Perhaps Lovi's, next. Or would this power also extend to Yvonne? Yvonne is a soul contractee, and I am not sure how the soul contract would interact with the soul blessing. I am not sure whether it can work with Yvonne, not in her current state. And that mind control thing, really. The gods tried. Yes. I have deflected divine energies a few times. Shit. Jura said. How do we even know if we're compromised? What if I am already under the influence of the gods? At this point, I don't know. It is something I am working on. Eon wants all books on heretics, rebellions against the gods and all such things. If the other temples have records on the prior struggles with rebels and disbelievers, he wants it. It was clearly something that made people uncomfortable. Is Eon really a heretic? Don't ask me. Eon wants a massive magical study on the work of heretics, their weapons and their processes. The Descartes received the order first. The goal was simply, whether there are some kind of objects that naturally resist divine powers. If so, those items or elements would be very useful in the process of countering the gods. Greater than may we know your intent. Less than Lilies discovered that we were gathering the books. Some time later. The entire continent has swayed to my side, including Lily's inhabitants. It seemed to maintain an aloof relationship with their inhabitants, not bothered to really give directions or orders. But they were clearly monitoring them. Yes, I should ask Lily's. Greater than Blackstar gems. They resist, but not absolute. We have some. Less than. Greater than best eaten or consumed, are fused to the soul. Strengthens the soul from otherworldly influences less than. What does that do to heroes? Lilies seem to detect my thoughts. Greater than reacts dangerously with star mana. Often explodes in contact. Less than. Greater than really deep underground, where the sun doesn't shine, where the light of the heavens do not touch. If you cannot find, you can make them. Leave most types of precious gem really deep underground, away from all light for 100 years, with some anti-magic or anti-mana enchantments, and about 1/10 will turn into Blackstar gems. Less than. 100 years to make. Blackstar gems. The temples seem to have not made any mention of it, nor any books or records were kept on this. It existed mostly in geological and blacksmith books, but did not seem to elaborate much on its use. We soon found some from the merchants, such objects kept in various stores. It was a rather brittle object, small, really pitch black in color and seemed to reflect no light. It appeared quite like a matte black stone. It was not hard and did not store magic or mana like most gems. Quite like coal, if not as shiny. I was rather confused by that. Greater than for a temporary resistance against the divine less than. I decided to just place it into my various types of labs for further study. If such an object really has anti-divine properties, perhaps I could make weapons or armor that grant those around me the ability to resist these forces.